Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the program proper just yet. It is just an opportunity for us to get to know each other and to find out what is going on today, really. All right, my name is Louise, by the way, and I will be your, let's just say, facilitator for today. And a few reminders before we proceed. Throughout the entire event today, please feel free to ask any questions. Maybe not raise your hands while the while the conversation is ongoing. We have pens and papers over to the left side of the ballroom, or we have a text number which I will share with you in just a bit, wherein you can actually send your questions to any of our guests who are here. Speaking of guests, we have dignitaries from the Philippine government who will be joining us today throughout the entire day. So I encourage everyone to please stick around, because who knows, you might find out something new which would be pertinent to your business, pertinent to your industry, or maybe just to get to know whoever is here today, all right? This event was put together precisely because of the reason that, well, we have our delegations from India who would like to find out and get to know our VIPs in the Philippines and how to do business, so to speak, in a nutshell, all right? We'll get in on more details a little bit later on, but for now, we would like to take the opportunity to introduce to everyone who are going to be speakers for today, all right? We will start off with the two gentlemen over here in front, and we will start off with, of course, the president of FICCI Philippines Incorporated, Mr. Rex Dorianani.
Good morning, everybody. Officers and members of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce Philippines, officers and members of FICCI, CII, and ASOCHAM, Mr. Vivek Singhal, head of delegation and members of the visiting business delegation, welcome to Manila. Distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the Board of Directors and members of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce Philippines Incorporated, allow me to welcome all of you, most especially members of the visiting delegation from India, to our beautiful Philippines. We sincerely hope that you enjoy every moment of your short stay with us. Please do not hesitate in letting us know how we can make your stay more comfortable, as it will be a pleasure to do the needful. The Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce Philippines Incorporated has represented the Indian business community in the Philippines since 1951. We are one of the oldest Indian chambers outside of India, with a long history of service to our members, but also one that has a long history of collaboration with the Philippine business and government sector. We are honored to be partnering with FICCI India, CII, and ASOCHAM for today's event, and are confident that this event will mark a great milestone and kick-off point for much more mutually beneficial collaboration in the years to come. Today's event was triggered by a request for meeting by the incoming delegation with 5 cabinet secretaries that was supposed to be scheduled this morning. The moment this was brought to our attention, we immediately instead offered to host this event, because there is no way you would have been able to meet all these secretaries with the traffic in Manila on Friday. If any of you can propose a quick fix to our traffic issues, I assure you that you will become very rich and famous overnight. Today's event is significant and most important because it will give you, our friends from India, as well as our own members, a chance to match the strengths of industry in India and our own strengths and needs in the Philippines, in an event where the head of the concerned agency participates in the exploration of possibilities. As we explore possibilities, we are confident that this will lead to a lot of back-end and follow-up work to match capabilities and needs in a manner that is bilateral and mutually beneficial. Our sleeves are rolled, and we are ready to take Philippines-India business relations and people-to-people engagement to the next level. I call on each one here today to share this vision and goal to be the catalyst to further strengthen the business foundation and cooperation of both India and the Philippines. Once again, welcome to Manila, and we look forward to a very fruitful engagement and to the establishment of long-lasting friendship during this visit. Thank you, Dhanyavad, maraming salamat po, mabuhay, and namaste.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rex Daryanani. Wow, I was surprised there. It was a full-on speech. I thought it was a pre-event.
Absolutely.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, just in case you are a little caught unawares, we are all in a formal wear, business attire and all that, but please feel free to make it a very informal and friendly affair, okay? Save taking off your clothes and jumping into the swimming pool. Let's not have that, okay? All right. Also with us, ladies and gentlemen, is, of course, let me see if I have my script down correct. Yes, we have with us the leader of the business delegation and CEO of GMR Construction, the leader, of course, of India's business delegation, Mr. Vivek Singhal.
Crystal, if we
Yes,
may, we'll
yes.
ask him to speak when the secretary.
Okay, absolutely. At this point, then, we would like to ask our other members of the delegation to introduce yourselves to the members of our audience. Let's start with you, sir.
Okay, I think we have a very good group with us. We are 36 of us. My name is Gajendra from representing international division of FICCI, and the group is comprises of some of the very big names from Apollo Hospitals. We have from, of course, GMR. You have already introduced. So maybe we'll just now go one by one, starting with the sofa, and then maybe.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm a professor at
Domingo,
Christ
you have
University,
to wait.
Bangalore, but I also take care of the incubation cell at our university. And I'm the founder and CEO of our company called Blessing Palms Private Limited. I'm the inventor of drinking straws made from dried coconut leaves. So I would be looking forward to have a great collaboration with this great country. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Professor. Sir?
Very good morning. Asim Roy. I manage the country operations for Wipro in Philippines. So it's a very tricky situation whereby I'm a member of the FICCI India and at the same time member of FICCI Philippines. So you can't ask for a better collaboration. So happy to be here. Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here also. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ullas Kamath. I'm the Joint Managing Director of Jyoti Labs. We are the top 5 home care companies in India. We are into consumer goods, trying to explore the possibility of coming to Philippines. Looking forward for some kind of interaction with the industry leaders here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hey, did your hands lack breakfast? Because I haven't heard any applause yet today. All right, thank you so much for that. Sir?
Hello, good morning everyone. I'm Krishna Rao. I'm the President of India Rice Exporters Association and the MD of Patabi Agro Foods. We are here to have some meetings with the government and the people who are interested to buy Indian rice into Philippines. Philippines is a major consumer of rice, but of late we had some duty issues with Philippines as we suffer higher duty in comparison to other countries in the region. Therefore, we are here to ask the government to level our duty with other competing origins. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. P. N. Arora. I am founder and CMD of Yashoda Super Specialty Group. We are looking for good opening of hospitals. I find people here very nice, good hospitality. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning everyone. I'm Dr. Harinder Sidhu. I'm the Vice President Corporate Development for the Apollo Hospitals Group. Apollo Hospitals is India's largest integrated healthcare group. We are doing some work in the Philippines, but we see there's a potential for a lot more collaborations in the healthcare sector. We are looking forward to next 2 days helping us in growing in that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so there you go. You have our delegates right here in front already. you are more than welcome to ask any questions from them as well, all right? Especially from our Filipino counterparts as well. Okay, let's find out what is up next in just a few moments. By the way, that text number that I was telling you about, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask any of our delegates here, is, and please make sure you have this down on your telephones as well, 0917 626 3422. And if you want my personal number, no, it's not my personal number, okay? Okay, I'll catch you in a few moments.
Late than never. So I'm Rajiv Kumar. I am the Executive Director for the Rice Exporters Association. So India is the largest exporter of rice in the world. We do roughly about 12.5 million metric tons every year. India produces a lot of rice, and we are exporting to most countries, more than 100 countries across the globe. But Philippines, being one of the largest importer of rice, is not doing any business with the largest exporter of rice. So we are here to make this matchmaking, and let's see how it goes. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. D.K. Gupta, Chairman, FICCI Hospital, Noida. We are one of the fastest growing hospitals in Noida. It's in Delhi and NCR, and we are looking forward for some healthcare collaboration with the Philippines. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. I am Dr. Rashmi, Director of FICCI Hospital. We are looking forward some good opportunities over here. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Ravi Shankar Saravu. I work as Chief Commercial Officer for GMR Megawide Cebu Airport Corporation. Our company is developing Mactan Cebu International Airport and also constructing Clark International Airport. I look forward for more fruitful interaction with all of you. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Puneet Puri. I work with GMR Constructions in Singapore, and the intent here is to find out more opportunities of providing infrastructure services in this region and in Philippines especially.
Hello, good morning. My name is Safi Kamal Huda. I am from Kirloskar Group of Companies. So we have different divisions. We are mainly from the compressor division. So we are hoping some business with Philippines in future. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Myself, Zoha, Mohammed Shamsu Zoha. I'm the chairman of Casta Engineers. We are mainly in infrastructure development consultants. We came here to find some opportunities of collaboration in infrastructure itself. Thank you.
I am Suraj Prasad Agarwal. We are builder by profession and industrialist having cotton ginning factory at Andhra Pradesh. We want to know what are the chances to have business with Philippines. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Gaurav Srinivas. We have multiple businesses. We are distribution and also international sourcing for non-ferrous metals. We are in aerospace and precision engineering technologies for all MOD group and other things. We have food flavors manufacturing. We are that. We wanted to explore much more opportunities where we can try to make matchmaking. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much and welcome to the Philippines once again, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, as you know, it's wonderful seeing you all bright and early over here. As you know, of course, the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce Philippines, or FICCI Philippines Incorporated, has been actively engaged in promoting the business and social interests of the Filipino-Indian business community in the Philippines. Now, since 1951, it has continuously enhanced relations between the Indian and Filipino communities, as well as the integration of Indian business interests, that of the Philippines. Now, today, as a formal organization, it represents the major business interests of the Filipino-Indian business sector. In keeping with its mission and vision, today's event focuses on reinforcing collaborations and building new bridges between Indian and Philippine government and private trade investment agencies, just like yourselves. Friends, welcome once again to the Phil-India Trade Consultations, strengthening our future together. A round of applause, please. Now to officially this time, kick off today's journey, please welcome once again the President of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce Philippines Incorporated, Mr. Rex Darianani.
Good morning again, everybody. I will not repeat my earlier speech because I might get shot. But Mr. Secretary, I would like to take this opportunity to formally welcome you to this event. And I thank you on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Chamber and our members, as well as from the visiting delegation, for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary De La Peña was one of the first to confirm his attendance when we sent out the invitation, a true partner of industry in the Philippines. Once again, sir, I will dispense with the two-page speech that I did earlier to open the event. But once again, sir, maraming salamat po for joining us, and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rex, and welcome, of course, Secretary. Now, over a period of time, ladies and gentlemen, India has progressively and perceptively paved the way for development in the field of science and technology. And at present, India holds a strong position in terms of advanced technology and serves as a knowledge warehouse with the existence of its many institutions catering to science and technology. Areas such as higher education, we have, of course, people here, scientific research and development, technological development, advancement in agricultural systems, development of space science technology. We have medical science and technology, infrastructure, just to name a few. We are excited, of course, to hear how the Philippines can collaborate with India in this sector. So without much further ado, please officially welcome everyone, ladies and gentlemen, from the Department of Science and Technology of the Government of the Philippines, our Secretary, Honorable Fortunato Boy Canseco de la Peña. How about your round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? And of course, as we mentioned and introduced earlier, we have with us, of course, the leader of the business delegation and CEO of GMR Construction, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vivek Singhal.
Good morning. Magadang Umaga. Honorable Fortunato Boy Canseco de la Peña, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of Philippines, Mr. Rex Durani, and senior delegates from India and Philippines. We are honored to receive such a warm welcome by the esteemed secretaries of the Government of Philippines and the Filipino business community. And it is an absolute delight to lead such a distinguished delegates from India. We are looking forward to these 2 days comprising of Philippines-India Business Conclave and ASEAN-India Business Summit with a focused and interactive sessions on science and technology, health, agriculture, information and communication technology, and with the Department of Trade and Investment. We are much honored by the august presence of the Honorable President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovind, who will be gracing the occasion tomorrow. This shows the importance of Philippines and the ASEAN region for India and how India wants to follow up its look east policy now to act east policy. If we talk about the relationships, they are formally established 26 November 1949 and shortly after gaining the independence. 70 years of diplomatic relationships are being celebrated in 2019. The relations between the two countries have been cordial, though the full potential is yet to be realized. It would be fair to say that despite several shared values and commonalities, such as anti-colonialism, South-South cooperation, South democratic polity, and independent judiciary and press, and the wide usage of English language, the relations between the two countries have been relatively unexplored and reflects a lack of information and knowledge about one another. However, if we talk about the bilateral trade, it is stood US $2.3 billion as on date. Specifically about the Indian science and technology sector, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has mentioned in one of the recent speech that India is becoming, inspiring to become a USD 5 trillion economy. Innovation, aspiration, and application of the technology will fuel this dream. It can become the bedrock of India's biggest leap into the most competitive economy. The government has put importance towards the technology sector by starting various programs and setting up artificial intelligence to prepare India for the upcoming Industrial Revolution 5. India is all set to get a dedicated startup hub in the near future under the edges of Ministry of Electronics and IT to basically serve as a platform to bring together entrepreneurs, incubators, investors, mentors, accelerators, and the venture capitalists. If we talk about the Filipino science and technology sector, Philippines has improved in terms of its preparedness for the technological changes in the next few years. The Philippines climbed to the 55th spot out of the 82 economies tracked in the latest technological readiness ranking published by the Economist Intelligence. In Southeast Asia, the Philippines is the fourth most ready economy so far. The technology is one of the most promising sector for the collaboration between India and Philippines, and there are opportunities for collaboration. Shared research and development, R&D infrastructure and professionals, business incubation infrastructure and professionals, and shared manufacturing resources. FICCI, in collaboration of Department of Science and Technology and the Government of India, has launched two prestigious bilateral programs, namely as ASEAN India Innovative Program and ASEAN India Research Training Fellowship Program in August 2018. At this moment, I again welcome each of you for this landmark summit. Without the further ado, and would request to commence the discussion and keep the discussions to the point and yet interactive possible. Welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singhal. All right, Honorable Secretary, it is your turn. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Secretary De La Peña.
Good morning, everyone. It is my honor to be here before you, representing our Department of Science and Technology. But before I move into my presentation, I hope the materials are being prepared now. I will start with the video, short video. I would like to recall a few things that connect me to India. Okay. A mention was made earlier of the 70 years of diplomatic relations, which was marked on what date? November. Is it November? What? It was mentioned earlier, the exact date. 1949, okay? 1949 is very important for me, okay? Because it is also my birth year. So I am as old as the diplomatic relations between India and the Philippines. Secondly, you know, I have been a professor of engineering at the University of the Philippines. I taught engineering for 43 years. But in between, I was seconded to the Department of Science and Technology. The first one was in 1982. So I was seconded, and this is the 5th president I'm serving. So in 1982, I served as planning chief under President Marcos at the DOST. In 1989 to 91, I served as head of the Technology Application Institute under President Cory Aquino. In 2001 to 2010, I served as Undersecretary under President Arroyo. That continued under President Aquino until I retired on mandatory age retirement in 2014, not knowing that I will be called to serve again in 2016. Anyway, the reason why I mentioned that long history is that when I first served government, if I exclude teaching at the University of the Philippines as government service, because it's also government service, the first trip I made as a public servant is to India. In 1982, I went to Bangalore for my first meeting under UNESCO, which actually led to the collaboration on the Asia-Pacific technology transfer. So that was 1982. And thereafter, I attended several meetings when the Asia-Pacific Center for Technology Transfer, which is under the UN umbrella, was moved from Bangalore to New Delhi. Okay, so I have witnessed the change between Bangalore circa 1982 and the Bangalore that we have now. So maybe the last connection that I would like to establish, you know, it is good to recall a few things. I have 2 nephews and 1 niece who are half Indians. Okay, so the surname is Gangadaran, and the the eldest boy is a well-known professor of thoracic surgery in Boston, and the boy is a very, shall we say, good civil engineer engaged in water systems, and the youngest is a PhD who teaches at the United Kingdom at the Royal Academy. Now, so above all those, so let me now show a few things. I will start with a short video that captures the activities that we have in the science and technology sector. We became a government department, cabinet level, in 1987, but history shows that our official engagements on science and technology, particularly research, started in 1901 when the Americans established the Bureau of Science. And that Bureau of Science has evolved into one of the 18 agencies under the Department of Science and Technology. In 1958, we became a board, okay? So it became the National Science Development Board. Two major functions were the funding of research. These were the initial funding of research from government given to other sectors like university. And the other one was the beginnings of the scholarships in science and technology and engineering. So in 1982, we became an authority, which is a higher level than a board. And finally, in 1987, President Cory Aquino established the Department of Science and Technology. So do we have the video now? Okay. No sound? More like a tourist.
Seasons, nature changes its forms. Science, technology, and innovation. Like the changing of the seasons, nature changes its forms. Science, technology, and innovation are the prime drivers of change. And for a nation like the Philippines, change is intended for lasting development. While we now relish the ease and comfort of technology, the higher call is how to make these benefits continue to be available for the future. We aim not only for what we can enjoy now, but also look beyond and ensure quality life for generations to come. This is the direction of the 2019 National Science and Technology Week, anchored on the theme, Enabling Technologies for Sustainable Development. Our NSTW puts to the fore the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, identified by the United Nations. The Department of Science and Technology, or DOST, has purposely outlined through its Science for the People mantra the pursuit of the SDGs with the following cluster technologies: food security, energy and environment, aging society, health and medical care, S&T Human Resource Development, equity and growth in the countryside, biodiversity and sustainable use of biological resources, sustainable cities and communities, resilience and innovation, and international linkages. As society's demands grow and become more sophisticated to a level that matches people's dreams and aspirations, the DOST continues to look ahead while enjoying the fruits of science technology, and innovation. Building a nation of scientific people, a caring, sustaining generation with a future in their minds and hearts.
That was essentially the video that we shown when we opened our National Science Technology Week last July with the theme Enabling Technologies for Sustainable Development. But for the 6 years in this administration, where of course I have been appointed to head the Department of Science and Technology, we adopted the tagline, Science for the People. Okay. Now, is there any other video? One more short video before I proceed. I hope you have time to listen to all of this.
Life changed lives. Life changing, transformative, revolutionary. For decades, the Department of Science and Technology has pushed the limits of our capabilities in science and technology. And in a world that is constantly evolving, where technology and innovations dominate all aspects of our lives, DOST continues to push limits, finding ways to not just keep up with trends, but also to discover new ways of doing things. Taking the lead in setting the direction in science and technology in the country. DOST celebrates every victory, telling stories of perseverance and persistence, of overcoming obstacles and hurdles, and of creating change that makes an impact on the lives of Filipinos. DOST converges the old and the new, combining the solid rhythms of traditions and customs with the unpredictable beat of the future.
It has been DOST's long-term mission to reassure that scientific and technological advancements will bring social and economic benefits to Filipinos. We do this through our research and development programs, through our technology transfer programs that will accelerate the adoption and use of technology, particularly for productivity improvement. We also offer technical services in various forms, which includes services that are intended for disaster risk reduction. And we have our human resource development program that will prepare our human resources for scientific and technological development.
That's a picture of the train which we developed at the Department of Science and Technology.
Scientific, technological, and innovative solutions that will lead to higher productivity and better quality of life. Our mission: to direct, lead, and coordinate the country's scientific and technological efforts geared towards maximum economic and social benefits for the people. The DOST champions science and technology for Filipinos, helping them see how life can be easier and better. Several councils and institutes work to make this happen. The Sectoral Planning Councils on Agriculture, Health, and Industry Support, and encourage R&D work and support activities. While 7 R&D institutes
This is how we are organized. We have 7 research institutes.
DOST's research and development functions on various scientific disciplines.
Through research and development, we went beyond our traditional capabilities and opened doors to possibilities for progress, such as the hybrid electric train that is built for the Philippine National Railway, the Tuklas Lunas program for drug discovery and development from Philippine biodiversity, the agricultural research in animal breeding to produce pure lines for livestock such as chicken, ducks, and pigs, and actinobacteria that can kill superbugs.
We also have
Science
research
is made more
service
accessible
institutes.
and relevant for our people with the help of the Science and Technology Service Institution, providing a wide array of assistance to clients and other stakeholders. Science is for everyone, and everyone should benefit from science. The Department of Science and Technology find ways to make science less
We
intimidating,
operate the Philippine Science High
more
School
interesting,
system also.
and more inclusive. The DOST have programs for the stakeholders, for the citizenry, and scholarship for the young to make them globally competitive and to prepare them as future leaders. Two advisory
collegial
bodies
bodies.
provide guidance on suitable directions as well as issues of science and technology in the country.
The Philippines is prone to many natural hazards that are related to weather, climate, and geophysical events like earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. The Department of Science and Technology is leading the country's science, technology, and innovation programs to make our communities safer and resilient to these various hazard-causing phenomena. We do this through the following. First, to understand the risk by developing and setting up monitoring networks, by understanding the hazards, the areas that will be affected, and how communities will be affected. And more importantly, to warn and communicate the information to the communities.
During the visit of the previous
As
president,
advancements in the fields of science, technology, and innovation continue, the inequalities in development among our people becomes more and more apparent. While those in the metro cities and developed urban areas can take advantage of these developments, our people from the rural areas lag behind. Hence, personnel from our 16 regional offices and 80 provincial science and technology centers work hard to address this gap and use science, technology, and innovation as tools to improve the lives of our people wherever they are.
Lives have changed for the better, communities have transformed, and mindsets have undergone a revolution. And as the country continues to rise above the challenges of a changing world, DOST remains committed to staying relevant and updated with developments abroad and to forging new partnerships and resource sharing in the region and beyond.
We'd like to pave the way for opportunities in science, technology, innovation through an enhanced partnership in order to improve Philippine science, technology, innovation standing in the international community.
But for these victories to be truly life-changing, transformative, and revolutionary, DOST continues to work towards ensuring that science and technology benefit everyone, where innovation shapes a society that is truly inclusive, and no one is left behind, where the wisdom of the old fuse with the discovery of the new, where science and technology are used to uplift those who are in need, and the fruits of science and discoveries are shared and enjoyed by all. Life-changing, transformative, revolutionary, one that is truly science for the people.
In this administration's priority to provide a comfortable and secure life for the Filipino, rest assured that you have my full support in empowering individuals and bringing our country towards greater heights. I trust that you will be with me as we work together in establishing a brighter and better future for all.
you. So actually, I have a few slides to show very quickly, just to explain better. But you have seen that in our organization, we have agencies in all. 7 are research institutes, 6 are service institutes. That includes the Weather Bureau, the Volcanology Institute, the Philippine Science High School, the Science Education Institute that administers all the scholarships in science and engineering. We also have the Science and Technology Information Institute and the Technology Application Promotion Institute to ensure that technologies generated out of research will be utilized. And I think in many of the areas that you have seen, I am sure that you have seen a lot of similarities maybe in the work that is being done in India, although India is in a much bigger scale, and I am sure that in many areas you have already advanced so much. So the next slide will show us that these are the 3 councils that administer, they direct the R&D. They are the ones in charge of initiating and formulating the harmonized national research and development agenda, because this is approved at the highest level. The research agenda is approved at the highest level. And these 3 councils are also the ones handling the funds that are given as grants for research, in most cases to universities and also to other institutions doing R&D. The next slide shows us, well, we will not deal anymore on these details, but let me just, well, these are the service institutes, as I have mentioned, from the Weather Bureau down to the Application and Promotion Institute. And then the next slide will show us, well, these are the details of the work done by our service institutes. I just would like to mention that when the President of India visited us also, I don't know how many years ago, but there were only 2 agencies that he visited, okay? He visited the Philippine Science High School, okay, where we have 16 campuses all over the country. And he also visited the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology. So these are the 2 places which he requested especially to be visited. Next slide shows, do we still have any? Okay. Anyway, if you have any questions, we can proceed, and I'm ready to answer whatever questions you and suggestions that you have in mind. But definitely, this is a welcome visit from your delegation. And actually, on November 20 to 22, we have a big event to be held in Davao. This is the Grassroots Innovation Summit. And it's another event that will be spearheaded by India and ASEAN. And we will be hosts. This will be November 20 to 22 this coming month. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Secretary De La Peña, and happy birth year to you. Okay, we turn over, of course, the floor to any questions. Rex, would you like to start it off?
Thank you very much. Once again, Secretary, maraming salamat po for being with us today. This session will move in a very relaxed atmosphere where my co-chair and I would probably have the discussions with you. And if I may take the lead and start off with the very first question, and I will be very biased in my question, sir. The main goal really of this visit, of this delegation and the meeting with you, you know, sir, Indians are one of the most charitable people in the world in many aspects. And we would like to believe that while many people recognize the fact that India is ahead when it comes to technology and tech, they are very, very willing to work very closely with the Philippines and transfer this technology to us and help us improve given the many needs that we have. We would like, sir, to establish a platform where the different chambers can work together with your office to find ways to speed up this collaboration on technology transfer. And we'd like to find that from you, sir, if you're okay with that, and what kind of ideas do you have in being able to get Indian companies to work closely with us in the Philippines?
Well, first of all, we have an international cooperation program. First, we have to check whatever agreements have been made in the past, because we would like to revive if there is any, or to establish one if there is none yet formally. In our strategy, because modesty aside, we have been approached by many governments for bilateral agreements, and whenever there is a bilateral agreement, it requires also manpower and the resources on our part, because these are usually partnerships in research and development, human resource development, and of course in the transfer of technology, and this will require resources. So we have sort of established a matrix, okay, wherein these are the countries we would like to work with, and these are the areas that we would like to work with. And maybe we can discuss that in more detail later. But certainly, there are many ways by which we can collaborate, and maybe using a certain platform. First of all, we are still in the learning process, if I may say, in the area of technology transfer, because this is one of the, shall we say, areas where we need improvement. We have finished so many research projects, and yet the utilization is low. Okay, meaning to say, the three sectors that we want to use this are quite still slow in pick up. Whether we are talking of the line agencies of government, like for example, we already developed a hybrid train, and we are now developing a hybrid trimaran, and we are not sure whether this will be used. Okay, we have been campaigning, we have done all the international tests that are required, so it is an area where I think we can learn much from India. Secondly, we have, of course, certain areas where we know India has advanced so much, and there are also areas where we are quite also ahead. Okay, so for example, when we talk of mass transportation, maybe we can learn from India. Maybe investments can be made by Indians here. We talk of, for example, drug manufacture. Maybe we are actually focusing on drug development out of our biodiversity. But we also have to probably learn and have partnerships in terms of drug manufacture synthetically, because I mean there are certain areas where the herbal and other forms of drugs are can be utilized right away. But in terms of synthetic drugs, I think this is one area where we even went into the extent of creating one company to deal with India when we were trying to import medicines some time ago. And then we have, of course, the area of, shall we say, the modern, the emerging technologies that now are here. We have been quite fast to pick up in the area of genomics, and in fact, on October 29, I will be launching the third genome center. We have one in Quezon City. We are building one in Dumangas, Iloilo, and then we are also, in fact, inaugurating or launching the third one in Davao this October 29. So that is in the area of genomics. In the area of nanotechnology, we have just started, but we also sort of teamed that up in the area of discovery of new materials. So we established an advanced manufacturing center within the department which is now focusing on additive manufacturing technologies, but we are coupling that with a program on new materials development that will be suitable to the 3D manufacturing technologies or the additive manufacturing technologies. In the area of electronics, we have maybe our delegation is already aware that electronics and semiconductors is the largest manufactured export that we have. It comprises more than 60% of our manufactured exports. And in this particular area, we have so far in our role as provider of services established the testing laboratories for semiconductors and electronics, but it has now expanded into other areas of technology. And then we are very much involved in packaging also because there are so much losses for example, in crops, in food, simply because of poor packaging and handling, and we would like to address that need. Our research and development is driven by a number of, shall we say, stimulants. One is what are the pressing problems? That is the reason why we are doing a lot of research related to mass transportation, why we are doing a lot of research related to drug development, and likewise why we are doing a lot of research with respect to related to food security. So maybe you have seen pictures of native livestock. We have been investing a lot in research and development to purify our lines of native livestock, whether they are pigs or ducks or chicken, okay? And we are very much involved now in the use of, shall we say, tissue culture, particularly in coconut, because we are facing a problem of decreasing coconut population, whereas we now have developed the so-called coconut embryogenesis, somatic embryogenesis technology, which will ensure that we will have a fast rate of replanting. Of course, the other problem that we are addressing in agriculture is really how to address new kinds of pests that are coming in, and we are preoccupied very much because some of the major exports have been affected by new kinds of pests. So our researchers are quite busy, and one other approach that we have undertaken is to expand the pool of research institutions. Whereas before, if I can count correctly, there were only 83 universities that have been getting grants from us, considering that there are more than 2,000 higher educational institutions in the country. We are trying to capacitate those that are located outside of the urban centers. We have universities in the regions who have certain specialties, and we would like to beef up their capabilities. We also have been trying to attract our big numbers of Filipinos who, of course, were trained here in science and technology, but had to move out, okay, in search of better opportunities. I think we share that concern for mobility of scientists, and we are now trying to get them back, some of them at least, to even for shorter periods of time, to help those institutions which we are trying to develop. So the other area, of course, this is a business delegation, but our other interest is in human resource development. I think we can still increase the number of Filipino scholars going to India, and also attract some coming from India to come here for some of our specialized programs. So there are certain areas where we have, shall we say, good expertise, and this can be attractive to students in India as well. So I think bottom line is there are also technologies that we have developed wherein you might have certain interests, okay? And definitely there are many technologies in India where we are interested in. So we can develop that kind of collaboration through an official agreement or understanding. But first, let us check what have been signed before, because from what I'm experiencing, there were already agreements made many decades ago, but has been inactive.
Thank you, sir. So we will visit you soon, sir, and make an appointment, and we'll take a look at what they signed.
Yes, maybe you have noticed in our video that there are two offices that we have created. We have very few officials. As you can see, the people talking there are the deputy ministers. So we created one specifically for disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation, because the Philippines is I think one of the highest in terms of being prone to natural disasters. And we have invested much in research and development in this area. And secondly, one of the innovations that I have introduced is to have a high official in charge of international cooperation. We never had that kind of office before, so we are really paying much attention to international collaboration.
Thank you, sir. We look forward to that. Time check. I know the secretary has another meeting to go to, if I'm not mistaken, in DOH, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
but you know, since I came late, I'm also willing to be leaving late. But
actually,
I think you have a timetable to follow. But really, I'm very happy that I've been invited here, and rest assured that officially, less officially, we can really do the collaboration. So I thank also the Philippine Federation of Chambers for organizing this.
Sir, one last question, if I may, from the Indian side of the my co-chair here. If there's any question from the delegates, we're happy to accept one more question.
All right. So anyone who would like to ask a question, just raise your hands in the meantime. Yeah. Okay.
Good morning, Secretary. I represent one of the leading IT BPO companies, India headquartered companies. I represent a leading Indian IT BPO company in Philippines, Wipro.
IT BPO.
Information technology.
BPO. Businessman. BPO.
We had a fantastic run in Philippines. We are around 8,000 employees in Philippines. One of the challenges that we primarily face is around the skill. So BPO is great, but when it comes to IT services is where we face a big challenge. So is there, I heard you speak about, some programs that we have around skill development. But is there a formal plan that we have in place to ensure that, there are some 80,000 Bachelor of Science, IT and Computer Science graduates who come out of the colleges, but not many of them can be employed in IT services. And that's the reason we have to get expats who are coders, programmers to come and work there. And that's where the big bucks lies, because as compared to a BPO, IT services are relatively high value services. So would be happy to hear your thoughts around what are we doing on
Well, maybe just a few things just to update you. The Information Communication Technology Office used to be under the Department of Science and Technology, but before the end of President Aquino's time, he signed a legislation creating the Department of Information and Communications Technology. Nevertheless, we still continue our work related to research and also to human resource development. There are a few things that I can mention here. One is our keen interest in trying to catch up in the area of artificial intelligence, data science, and data analytics, because we hear that this is shall we say, a big threat also to our BPO industry. And I think we cannot just let it go without doing any intervention. So we are now doing a massive training program in data science, data analytics. In fact, using already online medium for doing the training. So we have, for example, finished within 1 year training 750 people in this area, and we are targeting 30,000 more for the next 3 years. This is the initiative of the Department of Science and Technology. Now, speaking of BPO, the still traditional BPO, when we met with the BPO people, one of the major complaints that they have is the poor English of, of the applicants. I don't know whether it is still a problem. So we developed a software called the LEAP, Learning English. I cannot remember the A and the P. Okay, but this is really a self-learning tool that we developed at the Department of Computer Science at the University of the Philippines, which people can use on their own. Okay, for self-learning, particularly in that area. But there is also maybe a good development that I can mention, but this is really more at the educational level. We are lucky that the Department of Budget and Management of the Philippines, even if they are giving a very small budget for science and technology, is constantly increasing the budget for human resource development in science and technology. So our scholarship numbers have gone up, including the baccalaureate level, wherein ICT is included, and more particularly at the MS and PhD level. So depending on what will be the future needs of the BPO industry, we are, of course, very willing to address as much as we can do, even if we had already a separation from the Department of Information and Communications Technology.
Thank you. You spoke about R&D. Is there any special incentives for IT services company investing in R&D services and labs in Philippines?
We have the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, wherein investments in IT, they can qualify for registration in the eco zones. Of course, there's a big debate now on the new CITIRA law, which has some effects on the incentives that are being given. But I think considering that there is really a number of years for transition, and so I guess the benefits will still be there, the incentives. In fact, there is a special category in terms of the IT eco zones. Okay, so IT eco zones here have a different requirement from the other industry sector. So even a small building can be declared an eco park, a park. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, maraming salamat po. We truly appreciate your joining us this morning. May we
Ladies and
ask for
gentlemen.
the tokens, please?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please, to Secretary De La Peña for joining us.
Sec, maraming
And
salamat.
of course,
Maraming salamat
before
talaga. Thank you.
you leave, Secretary, we have a little something just for you. Diwali is actually happening in just a few days, and well,
Diwali.
one of the tokens that is being given during these moments is a mithai, all right? Handcrafted sweets just for you, all right? We have presented this for you and also in celebration of your birth year. There you go. Happy birthday, Secretary.
It will be on the 12th of November.
12th of November, everybody mark that calendars. And again, one more time, Secretary, would you be so kind as to share again what dates to mark on their calendar for that event? November
And where
20
the
also?
party will be at the day of
The day of that event, okay? Oh, there's another token also that,
Sir, I have this innovation of straws made from coconut leaves. So I thought I would like to gift it.
Please.
yes,
Yeah, we'd
please,
love to see
please,
that.
please. There you
we'd
go.
love to see that.
Round of applause, please. There are straws made out of coconut leaves. How about that?
Wow, good job.
I think this gentleman mentioned earlier also that this is something that he would like to see the Philippines get into, right, sir? Right, okay. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Another round of applause, please, to our distinguished guest, Honorable Fortunato Boy Canseco de la Peña from the Science and Technology Government of the Philippines. There you go. Thank you so
Salamat,
much, sir. And if there are any other questions, please feel free
you. See you
once
tonight,
again to forward it to that number that I mentioned earlier. Let me get that number once again, just in case you haven't saved it. The number is 0917-626-3422. And incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to send that message or that question to Secretary De La Peña and address it to who you want to direct the question to, all right? We have other speakers also here today. Thank you so much, sir, once again. At this point, we would like to give or take the opportunity to acknowledge our Honorable Ambassador to India who has graced us with our presence. Of course, Ramon Dondon Bhagat Singh is here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, sir, for making it here. Okay. Okay, there you go. You can go ahead and take your seat. Remember, this is just a nice informal event, even if we are formally dressed, ladies and gentlemen, okay? So take your seats, please. It's okay. Don't be shy. All right. Right about now, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the realm of health and pharmaceuticals. Yes, where we have witnessed quite a bit of activity. Major developments that have taken place so far. New clinical trials, revisions and updating of the list of essential medicines, prices of drugs, quality of drugs and regulatory compliances, regulation of electronic nicotine delivery systems, and so on and so forth. Now, we hope to achieve more clarity with respects to themes just mentioned. In this next segment, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us, of course, the Undersecretary of the Department of Health and Officer in charge of the Food and Drug Administration. Please welcome Dr. Rolando Enrique Domingo, DPBO. There. Also with us, of course, is Director Bello from the Bureau of International Health Cooperation, Department of Health, and our FDA representative from the Pharmaceutical Division, Dr. Melissa Guerrero. All right, you can direct your questions to any of them.
Welcome.
And welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Our dialogue experts, of course, Mr. Singhal and Mr. Daryanani, will still take the lead. Gentlemen, please proceed. Doctor, would you like to share a few words?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, they can go ahead.
Thank
Okay.
you. Doctor, thank you so much and welcome. I know the schedules have been very tight, but we truly, truly appreciate your joining us today. I turn over to my co-chair for the opening, please. Mr. Singhal.
Good morning, Dr. Domingo and Undersecretary. Welcome to the session and esteemed delegates. We had a bird-eye view of the Indian-Philippine relationships, and now we should zoom into the healthcare sector. So a brief perspective about the Indian healthcare sector. India's competitive advantages lies in its large pool of well-trained medical professionals. India is also cost competitive in compared to its peers in Asia and Western countries. The cost of surgery in India is about 1/10 of the US and Western Europe. The healthcare market is threefold to US, close to US $133 billion by 2022. So India is a land full of opportunities for the players in the medical devices industries. India healthcare industry is one of the fastest growing sectors, and it is expected to reach by US $280 billion by 2022. The country is also becoming one of the leading destinations for the high-end diagnostic services, with a tremendous capital investment for the advanced diagnostics facilities, thus catering to a greater proportion of population. Beside Indian medical services, consumers have become more conscious towards their health upkeep. India's competitive advantages also lies in its increased success rate of Indian companies in getting new ANDA, abbreviative new drug application approvals. India also offers vast opportunities in R&D as well as medical tourism. When we talk about the scope of partnership, India pharmaceutical companies have identified the Philippines as an increasingly potential market for affordable and quality medicines. Further to President Duterte's trip to India last January 2018, in line with the ASEAN commemorative summit, a key highlight of the trip was to emphasize the interest on bringing Indian pharmaceuticals to the Philippines. Through the discussions of the potential medicine trade deal and inviting Indian pharma companies to manufacture and produce in the Philippines for easier access to quality drugs for the Filipino people. India has a strong presence in Philippines in terms of pharma majors like Dabur, Lupin, Torrent, Cadila, Claris, Life Sciences. They have their license offices to promote their products. And FICCI has already having an active Ayush committee with the members across the India operating in the Ayush industry. So with this brief note, I again welcome you, Doctor, and want to listen your ideas and thoughts.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Singhal and Mr. Rex Darianani. I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to give very short message because I know there are going to be a lot of questions. Just so everybody knows, I am the Undersecretary of the Department of Health. I'm the Chief of Staff and I'm in charge of health regulation. That means licensing, hospital licensing. I'm the officer in charge of the Food and Drug Administration, which is a major concern for many of our friends who are here. I did listen to the delegates introduce themselves. So I imagine that you do have a lot of questions. Now, the Philippines and India have had a very long and good history in working together towards health for the Filipinos and, of course, for Indians also. When we started our Cheap Medicines Act in 2009, even before that, in 2001, we started to make sure that drug prices in the Philippines become lower. And the first thing we did was import medicines from India. The parallel importation program from India was the main tool that we used. It was really the main battle. That was the beginning of the battle for medicine prices to come down. And now we have a very healthy trade relationship with India when it comes to medicine. We import about, it consists of medicines, consists about 12% of all imports from India in the Philippines. It's about $200 million a year. Most of it, 90%, would be bought by government, but it's now also getting a foothold. Medicines from India is also getting a foothold in our private sector. With the universal health care coming in 2020, next year, the government and PhilHealth will be the major procurer of services and drugs and supplies for the whole country. And we foresee that there's a very good, there's a very bright future for more drugs coming into the Philippines, especially from India. Of course, at the FDA, I hope some of you have felt it, we are streamlining our regulatory processes. Some of your backlogs, some of your applications which have been there for 2 or 3 years have started coming out. I still have a lot of work to do until the end of the year to make sure that we get rid of that backlog and just getting up to date and receiving new applications and new renewals and doing it quickly by next year. But we are getting there, and I think we're going to come up with easier licensing guidelines and registration guidelines beginning 2020. So that should make everybody a little more relaxed. And we do appreciate that we need medicines to come into our country. We need good quality medicines. We need safe medicines. We need efficacious medicines. And of course, we have to make it affordable because our budget for universal healthcare is not unlimited. And if we want to give the services and the drugs to all the Filipino people, it has to come at a very good price. And I think this is a very good possible area of cooperation between the two countries. The president himself did say that he was interested in bringing in not only products but also manufacturing. So I would like to invite all of the manufacturers who are here. The Board of Investments is really going to help. They have identified pharma zones which can be developed in the future because most drugs in the Philippines are imported. All active ingredients of all drugs in the Philippines are imported. We do not manufacture anything. So this is one really potential business that can be gone into as a partnership between Filipinos and the Indian businessmen. So we'd like everybody to maybe explore that possibility of investing here. And the Board of Investments is very happy to do that. We also have, I did hear there were some delegations from the hospitals, the hospital chains. And the Philippines is very excited and keen on learning from you how you make things so cheap and affordable and accessible to so many of your countrymen. I think it's something that we have difficulty here at this time. I believe tomorrow there are going to be some meetings, especially on liver transplantation, with some of our people from the Department of Health and some of the hospital chains. And I think there's this keenness in the part of the Philippines to explore how this technology can be transferred, how we can get this capacity done, and how we can learn to make it affordable and cheaper, no, for the Filipinos. So for the hospital groups who are attending that meeting tomorrow, I think that would be a good time to explore this cooperation, this exchange of information, this exchange of training, and of course, learning, no? For us, learning from you how to make the services a lot more accessible to our countrymen.
Thank you, Yusek. You mentioned earlier about the liver transplant event tomorrow. Just to brief you, our chamber is actually very, very humbled that we have been given an opportunity to have the pediatric liver transplant program as part of our advocacy, where we actually help these families get to India and have their transplant. In the process of this advocacy, we have played a very central role in bringing the different stakeholders together, DOH, the private hospitals, the Indian hospitals, Office of Senator Go, etc. And we have actually studied where the differences are and how India is actually able to do it really cheap. And in one of the meetings that we had at DOH, no, we discovered that it's really the way Philippine hospitals do their pricing, where they mark up on every single thing, including needles or any consumable that may have. Unlike in India, when they do a package deal and the consumables are more part of OPEX. So this is one of the things that we've already discovered, and we're looking forward really to working with DOH to take this program forward. The direction that is being taken, and we are very fortunate and thankful to the hospitals in India. Right now, the partners that we're working with in India is the Apollo hospitals and Max hospitals. Apollo is well represented here today. They have been so nice that they are actually very open to transferring the technology to Philippine hospitals and to Philippine doctors. So that is already underway. What we need is really government support to speed this up and make this happen. I've also been made to understand that there's a lot of other, not just liver, but there's bone marrow, there's other things in India that maybe I can turn over to our friends from Apollo to share with us. What do you think would be the possibilities when it comes to healthcare, as far as working with the Philippines and transferring technology and coming up with proper collaboration with the Philippine Department of Health and hospitals in the Philippines? Sir, please. We get a microphone here, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. X, and good morning, Dr. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and once again I'd like to thank the Chambers for hosting this event, and thank you for coming, Dr. Naldo. Like Mr. X just mentioned about the liver transplant program, we have been able to build a strong collaboration in that area. What we've learned that this technology exists here in Philippines, but there needs to be some refinement, especially around the pricing side, and maybe a little more skill development. What I was told was that they do the transplants, but there's a long waiting time. So we can look at how we can bring in more skills from India here. And I'm very pleased to share, as we talk, end of this month we are hosting a conference in India on specifically on pediatric liver transplant, and we have your doctor joining us there for the conference. So we are already working in sharing this information technology. Apart from liver transplant, there are other areas like we are suffering from in India and globally the challenge of the rising non-communicable diseases. So cancer is a big issue, and we again have been able to develop some processes and technologies to cure them well with good quality and at a much affordable cost. So we'll be looking at areas of collaboration in cancer, bone marrow transplant, kids suffering with leukemia. I'm very pleased to be here, and let me also share our experience in the last 2-3 years. We have been very cordially received every time we come here, and the kids we have done more than 35 transplants successfully, sir, for kids from Philippines. And all of them are doing well, and we are very happy about this contribution, small contribution we have made. But in the long term, we are looking at how it can be done fully here. That's our goal. That's how we have done in India. 40% of the doctors in Apollo hospitals have actually gone outside in different parts of the world to get trained in the best centers and come back to India and bring that technology to India. And we are very willing to have more doctors coming from Philippines to us, having our doctors come here. In fact, the surgeon who's operated on these kids is coming tomorrow for that program. So he'll be there, there'll be a chance to interact with him. And we are very happy to build more collaborations in that area. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I think that will be the direction of the meeting tomorrow. No? And about the pricing, you're absolutely right. That's why in our new law with universal healthcare, we're going to make a fixed, at least for the government hospitals, a fixed markup. The runaway markups are just too much, and it's making it difficult for the poorer Filipinos to access healthcare.
If I may, just to brief you, the event tomorrow is really, this room will be filled with post-transplant patients and their parents. The members of the delegation will be with us again. The cabinet spouses and the First Lady will join us. And the President of India will address the crowd. So if I may suggest, if our friends from DOH have time after the President leaves, then perhaps a small huddle between the hospitals that are here and DOH and ourselves could happen, subject, of course, to your availability.
No, not mine. My secretaries. I will inform him.
No, what I heard, sir, is Secretary Duque has been assigned to the President of India.
Yes.
So wherever he goes, Secretary Duque has to go.
So if the President will be here, the Secretary will be here.
And unfortunately, there will not be enough time for dialogue at that event to discuss this in detail because they're moving on to PGH after that. So perhaps what we can do, sir, is we'll make an appointment with you and meet you at your offices with the Secretary after the visit of the President, and we can invite the Indian hospitals again to be with us and to start helping us in the transfer of information.
Yes, I think that would be, in a more official setting. I mean, a more intimate setting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
absolutely.
that would be great.
We'll work on that, sir. So, may I transfer to my co-chair for any questions from the Indian side?
No, there are a few representations from the FLX and the Yashoda Hospital, so I recommend that you can raise the question to.
Yes.
Hi, I am Dr. D.K. Gupta from Felix Hospital, Noida. It's nearby Delhi. And as demographically we share same epidemiological diseases burden in India as in Philippines. Like most of the patients in India are suffering from communicable disease, and now they are non-communicable lifestyle diseases. Similar profile we have seen in Philippines also. And the dominance by the private sector in India is right now, and same is in the Philippines. But we are doing quite ahead with the help of government. Like we have launched world's largest insurance scheme, Ayushman, last year, and that is completing 1 year right now. And Indian government is providing around 5 times of the Philippines population free coverage of 5 lakhs rupees, means around $7,000 per month to provide treatment to these needy patients, basically under poverty or below poverty level patients. So why we cannot collaborate with the Philippines to provide such services for secondary care? Means burden is for the secondary care in the Philippines and in India both. Tertiary care is only limited to 10% of the total disease burden. So in secondary care, if you give these type of the services or these type of private-public partnership, even with Philippines or with India people on Indian hospitals also, then we can provide much affordable cost at lowest rate.
Yeah, I do agree. No, I'm an ophthalmologist, so I also know about the non-communicable disease. Yeah, so the thing is that with the universal healthcare law, once we start rolling it out next year, the provinces and the cities are going to develop their healthcare networks, and the law very explicitly allows it to be a purely public healthcare network, a purely private healthcare network where patients can still access and then the government will still pay, or it can be a public and private health network. So I think it's going to be a very exciting next 10 years in the Philippines as we develop these networks, especially in areas where there are hardly any existing facilities right now. So that network will be from primary care, secondary care, and more specialized care. And the law allows it to involve the private sector. So hopefully we're going to that direction where the government, there are areas where the government just cannot go and cannot prioritize those investments, then the private sector can come in and help. So that thing is happening in the next, from 2020 to 2030. We think in 10 years we'll have these networks available. So it's a good time to come into the Philippines right now.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question, sorry.
Yeah, please.
Good morning. My name is Upasna. I am representing ASSOCHAM, but I am running a hospital also. So basically I am from chairman for SCPC also. So basically today I am here just to know how we can do more medical tourism to India from Philippines, because I am an Indian and I am proud to be an Indian, because the best doctors are from India. Even in America and in UK, healthcare is run by only Indian doctors. So we are providing best healthcare in very affordable price. So I would like to meet you and we can discuss about this, how we can promote our medical tourism.
We do have an office for medical tourism, both inbound and outbound. So we can connect you with that. Of course, our final goal is for us to learn what you're doing so we can do it here. And we can have more medical tourists here, just to be clear. But at the beginning, I think it's something that we really can work with, and we do have an office for that, and we can connect you with them.
Any other questions on the medical side from the audience?
Good morning, everybody. Secretary, if I may just ask you, you had mentioned this universal law coming into play next year. How will PhilHealth play a role in this, please? Thank you.
So PhilHealth is going to be the main payer. PhilHealth is going to handle all the funds. What we're doing is we're going to pool all funds with PhilHealth. So the premiums that we're paying, for those who cannot pay, the government would pay for them. We get taxes from alcohol and tobacco and vapes. That goes to them too. We get a percentage of income from the lottery that will go there, and from the casinos. So all of the money will be pooled with PhilHealth. The Department of Health, the ministry, is still going to run the public health programs, the immunization programs. Tuberculosis is still a problem. That's still probably going to be ours. Malnutrition. But all the individual-based care, hospital care, primary care, medicines, maintenance medicines, that will be financed through PhilHealth. So PhilHealth is going to be the biggest single purchaser of services, medicines, devices, products in the Philippines. So it's going to be consolidated. It's going to be bidded out. And, you know, once you have that competitive price, that good quality, it's going to be a lot easier to work with government by starting next year.
Thank you, sir.
Hold on one second, please. Sorry.
The biddings will go through PhilHealth and the Department of Health.
Okay, simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
We're going to for the ministry, we're going to centralize our bidding for all our hospitals and all of our programs into one single bid. So we want to get the best price and the best quality that we can.
Thank you, Secretary. Yusek, I know there's a multitude of questions in the mind of everybody as far as FDA is concerned. You recognize that. And we're really happy that you've been appointed as OIC.
I'm OIC.
I know. I actually dare say that I hope you actually become the DG of FDA. But seriously, one of the things that our chamber had proposed to then Secretary Garin was the creation of technical working groups per industry. And that was actually created during her time. But unfortunately, it really wasn't pursued. May we humbly request that this be revived, where offices, the members of the FDA actually start working with industry representatives to create this public-private partnership that will aid in speeding up of many of the concerns with the FDA.
Yeah, I did receive that. In fact, there were TWGs before,
Yeah.
No? And then they were like,
I was part of one of those.
Oh, okay. So
and unfortunately, it was the first meeting, and then it didn't really push through. Yeah.
So what we're doing now is, at this time, quarterly, we're meeting with the kapihans, the coffee shop talk, with the industry partners to see how we will go forward. Of course, we just have to be very, very careful to make sure that we do address regulatory concerns, But of course, the conflict of interest we should never be doubted of having any conflict of interest of like working with the industry to make it easier. Our primary responsibility, of course, is still safety and efficacy. Price is not even a responsibility of the FDA. So if we can find a way to make sure that we just insulate ourselves from any conflict and work just on very particular, sore points that we need to speed up, then I do not see any problem with the possibility of working with the industry just on very, very particular topics.
Perhaps, sir, in jest, we can probably adopt the style of Mayor Isko in Manila, where all his meetings are on YouTube. And so, therefore, it's all completely open, and that way FDA is shielded from any accusation of conflict of interest whatsoever. But we will certainly reach out to you and take this forward, because this is really something that every time we meet President Duterte, he always chides us on medicine and speeding it up, and he wants this done. Even now with the good Senator Bongo, who's really very, very focused on healthcare. So we will be bugging you, sir, if you don't mind. As partners in industry, as partners in industry, we will be bugging you. But rest assured that our intentions at chamber level is really to collaborate between Philippines and India, and to bring cost of healthcare, not only in pharmaceuticals, but in overall treatment lower in the Philippines.
Yeah. And we really appreciate it. No? I mean, we know that the amount of drugs coming in as generics, as good quality generics coming from India has helped this country. No? The percentage in amount of money, the branded products are still getting the major amount of money that we're spending on medicines, but in the number of pills and tablets, the generics are more right now. And this is something that we want to push. And once the government starts paying for everything, we can only afford it if they're really low priced and good quality. And that is the way we're going for the next 10 years.
We look forward to that, sir, and we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us today. It really means a lot that you have personally come. And maraming salamat po, and thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you so much. And of course, with that, we'd like to thank once again Dr. Rolando Enrique Domingo, DBPO. He, ladies and gentlemen, is, of course, our Undersecretary of the Department of Health and officer in charge of the Food and Drug Administration. If there are any further questions that you would like to ask after this official talk is through, you will be more than welcome to approach, of course, the good doctor. At this point, again, in celebration of Diwali, Undersecretary, we would like to present you with tokens, a token of appreciation. All right? A handcrafted sweet in celebration of the wonderful, wonderful Diwali.
Just a photo op, please.
There you go. Okay. I know, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a late start, but we are getting underway, and we'd like to encourage you, please, if you have any questions, raise your hand, dance or anything. It's informal, okay? I know we're in an informal, we are formally dressed, but then let's try to keep it as light as possible. And if you're a little shy, not to worry, we have pens and papers on the left side of the ballroom. You can always write it down and hand it over to me. And of course, Mr. Mahesh here also will be more than happy to hand the mic to you for any questions. Okay. Are you all doing well so far?
I understand there's a request for a bathroom break for some people that may wish to use the restroom. So you have 5 minutes. Please come back, because our next guest of honor is here already. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Give my phone. Give my phone.
Right now, though, we move on to agriculture. So if you're all ready, yes, we have seen how this sector has been affected by the technical, industrial, and services growth rates, ladies and gentlemen. There is a common development towards a productive, competitive, diversified, and sustainable agricultural powerhouse that will need to emerge at an accelerated pace. Priority areas include rural growth and livelihood development. There's poverty alleviation, community actions, sustaining the environment and future agricultural productivity, financial support. The list goes on and on and on. Now let's find out, ladies and gentlemen, what steps can be made towards agricultural development, shall we? Let us all welcome the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, Government of the Philippines, the Honorable William D. Dar. Thank you so much, sir. Please, microphone for Honorable Dar. And for Mr. Daryani and Mr. Singha.
There you go.
There you go.
First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our good friend, the Secretary of Agriculture, William Dar. Sec, thank you very much. Secretary was again one of those secretaries who immediately responded to my text invitation to join us today. I must say that Secretary Dar is actually a hero when it comes to agriculture. We are very pleased that the good president has appointed him as our secretary. He is no stranger to India, having lived in India for 15 years. So I think he is probably more Indian than me, and I will defer to him on matters related to India. So I will turn over to my co-chair to deliver the opening address. Microphone, please. Lapel.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Honorable William Dar, Secretary, Department of Agriculture. It's a pleasure to be here with you. As you told that you have been in country for 15 years, so you know India pretty well. And the fellow delegates, we have 2 hours exhaustive discussions about the healthcare and science and technology. Now we straight dive into the agriculture sector. Indian agriculture sector, a brief Indian demonstrated leadership in agriculture and agriculture sciences is a real benefit to the farmers, not only in India, but also SAARC, ASEAN and Sub-Saharan African, in mitigating the risk of climate change for rice farmers. The establishment of research facilities and centers of excellence, such as International Rice Research Institute, Philippines, and one in Varanasi, is the treatment to the Indian government commitment to South collaboration as a key mechanism for meeting food and security needs and improving the livelihoods and welfare of farmers. Indian Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi inaugurated the Resilient Rice Factory Laboratory at RRI in Philippines in year 2017. Filipino agriculture sector, the Philippines is still primary agriculture country. The country's agriculture sector is made up of 4 subsectors: farming, fisheries, livestock, and forestry, which together employ 40% of the labor force and contribute 20% of the GDP. Concern areas for the Philippines is one of the most pressing concerns of the agriculture sector is the rampant conversion of the agricultural land into the golf courses, residential subdivisions, and industrial park or resorts. Another concern is farmer continues reliance on chemical-based fertilizers or pesticides, and they are destroying the soil productivity on time. The scope for the collaboration for Indian agri-tech companies with Philippines, India and Philippines have signed a MOU in year 2017 to promote understanding of best agriculture practices between 2 countries, which will in turn help better productivity along with the improved global market access. Under the agreement, the 2 countries have agreed to cooperate in the field of rice production and processing, multi-cropping system, dryland farming system, big organic farming, solid and water conservation and management, soil fertility, sericulture, agroforestry, and livestock improvement. Thank you very much. And again, I am welcoming you for this session. And there are quite a good representation from the Indian side. So we'll have a good interactive session.
Thank you. May I turn over to our dear secretary, who is our expert in Indian agriculture. Sir, please.
Thank you, Rex Darlani, the president of the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce, and we go a long way in a movement called Go Negosyo in the Philippines, and that's where big business and for me being an expert in agriculture and then in agribusiness, we together are in many areas discussing potentials of really enhancing the collaboration between Philippines and India. Mr. Vivek Singhal, CEO of GMR Construction and leader of the delegation. Delegates from the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, ASOCHAM, FICCI, Confederation of Indian Industry, Mr. Prasad, who was my boss before becoming Secretary of Agriculture, having invested, continue to invest in the Philippines, Prasad Seeds Philippines. Ambassador Ramon Bagat Singh Jr., our Philippine ambassador to India. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
I feel like I am now in India again today. To tell you a brief story before going straight to the point. In 1862, you remember the British came to the Philippines and conquered the Philippines, and they brought with them Indian sepoys. Okay, so after 2 years, they made peace with Spain, who was then, occupying the country. So when British and the Indian sepoys were leaving, a good number of them jumped off ship and stayed behind and married beautiful ladies from Spain here in the Philippines. And that's how DAR started in the Philippines. One of them was one of the sepoys. So I'm in an Indian blood. See? And there is reason why I mentioned that, and because we wanted you to come and invest here in the Philippines. Today is such a new environment for the agriculture sector and agribusiness sector to really welcome every foreign direct investment and or partnership that can be possible to develop and grow Philippine agriculture. You know, the growth of Philippine agriculture for the last 10 years have been very anemic, 1.1% annually. And yet you have a high population growth rate of 1.8%. And so there is really some deficiency in terms of the food that is available for every Filipino. We are now 107 million Filipinos today. Agriculture contributes 9-10% to the gross domestic product of the country. But if you include agribusiness, contributing 25%, so a total of 34% is such a huge contribution to the economy. There is still possibilities for unlocking the potential of agriculture and agribusiness in the country. We have to have just the right development strategy, which we now have put in place. We have a development strategy anchored on a document called The New Thinking for Philippine Agriculture. And the very vision under that would be a food-secure Philippines with prosperous farmers and fisherfolk. And of course, from this vision, you have to have an overarching goal of increasing productivity and increasing incomes for the farmers and fisherfolk with cross-cutting objectives of sustainability, resilience, and many others. So I have targeted, the growth of Philippine agriculture for my first year as the new servant leader in agriculture beyond the population growth rate. So by the end of July 2020, we should have reached 2% growth per annum. The second year, we are targeting between 2.5 to 3%. And by the third year, we should be targeting between 3 to 4% or 3.5 average. It's respectable growth. When I was Secretary of Agriculture here in the country 21 years ago, Even just for a year stint then, the growth of Philippine agriculture was 9.6%. And that has never been surpassed up until today. And so we were, but the environment today is more complex than before. And I believe that opening up in terms of really encouraging foreign investors like India today, we will have the opportunity to unlock the potential of Philippine agriculture. And there are 8 areas we are guided with to develop and grow Philippine agriculture. Number 1, modernization of Philippine agriculture continues to be a very important paradigm or a strategy. You know, there have been an agriculture modernization for the sector 22 years ago, but the targets of that law has never been met, and we continue to really bring to a higher level of engagement, modernization of Philippine agriculture. And part of that today is a rice competitiveness enhancement fund that will support Philippine rice farmers to become more productive and competitive. The use of new technologies, appropriate technologies, disruptive technologies, and the like, IT, for one, should be properly part of the whole strategy under modernization. Presently, I could say the Philippine agriculture is in industry 1.0 or agriculture 4.0, oh no, 1.0, where you still have the plow and the carabao as the mainstay. And under the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Program, we are now systematically will be introducing and giving away machines and equipment to mechanize farming. So 5 billion a year for the next 6 years. So 60 billion for rice competitiveness, 3 billion for seed distribution of in-dried rice, and capital 1 billion for skills development every year, so 10 billion. But if you look at the total budget of the department or for Philippine agriculture, it is 70 to 75% of that goes to rice development. So the rest are for high-value agriculture, livestock, and fisheries. The second strategy that we are institutionalizing to develop and grow Philippine agriculture is industrialization of the sector. We need now to have more agri-industries in the rural areas, food processing, tooling facilities, like the one being invested with by Mr. Prasad, tooling for seeds, for hybrid corn, for hybrid rice. This is going to revolutionize the seed industry in the country. We need more processing facilities, food processing facilities in the countryside. We should be having more of these facilities where they are produced. Don't bring them again to Metro Manila. Don't bring them again to metro cities. Let those rural industries be located in the areas where they are mostly produced. We will now, this is where the private sector, business sector from here and abroad are encouraged to come forward and really partner if need be, or have your own foreign direct investments and do agribusiness in many ways. We have a document that can be passed around or be sent to you, but if there is enough time to present it, I have a colleague who will underscore this. But yes, the third area for us, the third strategy, the third paradigm is what I call export development strategy. You know, we only have 2 products, banana and coconut oil, that have reached the $1 billion category and above. There is none for between $500 million and up to less than $1 billion, but a good number of products below $500 million. So which means there is potential to increasing the export products of the country, properly planned. You know, today the strategy is you only export what is the surplus. That's a wrong strategy. We have now to identify production areas. Once identifying the priority commodities or products, and from a value chain perspective, from production, you know, processing, value adding, to market, that has to be the view and the strategy with which we have to develop Philippines agriculture and agribusiness. The port area, because of the small land holdings that we have today as a result of the land reform program, we need to consolidate the farms. Farm consolidation is a must. There are many models, corporate farming where possible, state farming, like what is being done in Malaysia and Indonesia, cluster farming, block farming, inclusive contract arrangements, many ways. So we are now going to institutionalize farm consolidation support, and this is one of the newer programs that I will pursue, so that again the idea of partnering between big business and small farmers will happen. This is the only way I can see possible for increasing or doubling the income of the farming families in the countryside. What is the annual farm family income today? 108,000 pesos per farm family per year. And in 5 years, like what you have in India, there is a program for doubling farm family income. You know, I always read what is happening in India. And so this is one strategy I'm putting here to double farm family income also in 5 years' time. So from this year for the next 5 years. And of course, this can happen with you coming to help me, your brother here in the Philippines. Don't forget that you have a brother here, and you will have all the support in the environment that you can have good business here in the Philippines. After farm consolidation, you will have to build relevant infrastructure supportive of where the production areas are, tooling facilities, smaller, big market areas from medium to big. There will be, for example, a food terminal to be constructed in Clark, and that will bring the produce from central, northern, and Cordillera regions. And that's one good thing. There will also be a food terminal here in Batangas, and that will also bring in produce from southern provinces. So again, we encourage everyone to please come and identify which projects we can do together. The other area after having the infrastructure is to look for, of course, more budgetary support from government. And not only from government, putting up and nurturing the policy environment where private sector can invest properly. We have income tax holidays for pioneering businesses. We have a board of investment. I hope Secretary Mon Lopez mentioned this. We will always project, and every time there is a need to update the priorities for this ITH, we will do so. And the last point I would like to mention, we are tapping the support of the legislative branch of government to make it possible that these newer ideas of growing Philippine agriculture will be put in place. We have, for example, to entice the younger generation to go back to farming, as is the case for many countries. The sons and daughters of farmers are no longer interested to go back, but maybe for new ways of enticing them, the apps, developing apps, the use of disruptive technology, mechanization, and the like. Again, the bottom line is to make farming or agribusiness a profitable venture. Otherwise, you can never bring this younger generation back to the farms. So in brief, friends and ladies and gentlemen, this is the time now to decide the next 3 months to really partner, come here, engage businesses, agribusinesses in the country. Thank you, Rex, and thank you, Vivek. I have only time for the next 15 or so minutes, so what's the pleasure? Do we go to the PowerPoint or have open forum? We are ready, both ways.
PowerPoint? Is everybody okay with the PowerPoint? Okay, sir, please, the PowerPoint is good.
Okay, we have our Deputy Director for Agribusiness and Marketing Assistance Service, Junibert Desagon, to make the presentation.
Good morning, our Honorable Secretary and members of the delegation. Actually, I have more than 50 slides to present, but due to time consideration, I will reduce it in half. Okay. I will be showing you the Philippine agricultural trade and investment landscape. Being an island country, we have 2.2 million square kilometers of territorial water area and about 10 million hectares agricultural land area. In 2018, we have an 8.09% share to the gross domestic product. And also, in 2018, we have recorded an increase in agricultural export, amounting to $6.32 billion and a declining agricultural imports with a total of $14.5 billion. You can see now the comprehensive national industrial strategy of the country. We have top 5 priorities that includes manufacturing, tourism, ITBPM, KPO, infrastructure and logistics, and agribusiness and high-value crops. So the opportunities in, we have new high-level growth trajectory, we have a growing middle class. We have a political stability in the country now. We have young and English-speaking workforce. We have rising business confidence, and the ASEAN Economic Community and free trade agreements that I will show you later. Of course, we have the new industrial policy support, a bolder trade policy, intensive investment promotion, and modern SME policy. So what are the advantages for agribusiness? We have special economic zones. We have Board of Investment incentives. Actually, we have a BOI office under DTI, and we have long-term lease on private lands for 50 years plus 25 years for extension. These are actually advantages of doing business in the Philippines. For the preferential trade agreements, let us see where is India located. So India, green mark. So it means that we have a signed preferential trade agreement with India. So good news. For the Philippine export winners, we have banana, mango, pineapple, coconut, tuna, and seaweeds. These are our export winners. Aside from the export winners, we have the DA priority commodities that includes aquaculture, seaweeds, abaca, rubber, cacao, coffee, livestock, and poultry. In a nutshell, agribusiness opportunities are available in the different levels of the value chain. As you can see, these are in the nursery and production level. We have also processing and value adding, and for the marketing and logistics. The following slides will show the investment opportunities which are already the result of a value chain analysis. Number one is Abaca. Philippines is the number one producer and exporter of Abaca fiber and manufactured products. So, to go to the opportunities, this includes production of tea bags, sausage casing, and banknotes. Also, the nursery entrepreneurship for planting material production, fabrication of fiber extraction devices and machines, pulp manufacturing, weaving and fiber craft business, production of fiber and post-construction materials, and production of fiber-based nanocellulose for industrial application. For coconut, we have 3.5 million hectares of total agricultural area which are devoted to coconut, and actually benefiting some 3.5 million coconut farmers and farm workers. In 2018, we have 14.7 thousand metric tons as coconut production, and for the export, matured coconut, 28.4 metric tons. For the opportunities under the coconut industry, the improvement of quality of traditional products like copra and coconut oil through extensive production and R&D. We also, one of the opportunities is establishment of R&D facilities and the growing market potential for non-traditional products like coconut milk, water, sugar, and activated carbon. Next is the Philippine mango. The Philippines is the leading exporter of fresh mangoes. Like for 2018, we have 711,000 metric tons as production. Then fresh mango export 13.5 metric tons, 13.5 thousand metric tons with a value of $19.4 million. Opportunities for the mango industry are the mango plantation, processing of dried mangoes, production of mango seed oil, modernization and rehabilitation of existing dried mango processing plant. The Central Visayas region is the highest producer of mango during the last years. For the seaweeds, we have a seaweed production of 1,478 metric tons. Okay, then opportunities and the development of new and revival of idle seaweed farms. So then we also have the shrimp production, and you can see the opportunities with the shrimp industry. For the processed meat, we have the record on the meat production and also the opportunities like establishment of AAA slaughterhouses. The condiments, the local condiments industry can be broadly categorized into sauces, seasonings and mixes, and also the opportunities in the production of the raw materials. Then the performance of the Philippine chocolate industry, we have a production record in Davao region. 82% of the total cacao production in the country. Then the opportunities for the cacao industry includes nursery establishment to produce certified planting materials, cacao tableya, R&D on cacao, and variety improvement. Then for coffee, the major producing regions and provinces for coffee includes Batangas, Southern Tagalog, Negros Occidental, Davao region, Soc-Sargen in Mindanao, ARMM, Barm, Bukidnon, Benguet, and Kalinga, Payao up north. Investment opportunities include post-harvest and processing equipment and machineries. For rubber, we have also investment opportunities in rubber to include expansion of the production areas and the processing facilities. We have the Philippine Special Economic Zones, like for the agro-industrial economic zones, agroforestry economic zones, and aquamarine economic zones. That's all. I think The next portion is the question and answer portion. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Director Junibert Sagon. Now we return the floor back to, of course, Mr. Daryanani and Mr. Singhal, and of course, Secretary Dar.
For those of you that are here today, I have been active in chamber work since 1995. I have seen many presentations from many government agencies. And I say this today in front of media. This is one of the best presentations I have seen. So congratulations, sir. Very complete and very easy to understand. I pass on to my co-chairman. I'm sure there's a lot of questions from those in agriculture from India. Without further ado.
So I pass the questions to my colleagues here, and there are plenty of questions they want to ask.
Microphone, please. Thank you.
The stage of Indian farmer and Philippines farmer are more or less same. India is also striving to pick up the livelihood of the farmers, and Philippines is also doing the same thing. We come from the rice sector. I congratulate the government of Philippines for introducing the rice tariffication law, under which any traders can import rice into Philippines paying 40% duty. I heard with this law the farmers are not very happy because too much of rice is coming into the country and hitting their livelihood. I think the only way to balance the interest of the farmers and the consumer is you have to hit a midway. Probably the tariff you are collecting from the importers, say 40% or 45%, you have to look at transferring that as cash transfer to the rice farmer. That is the only way you can keep the farmer happy, rather than restricting imports. That is the suggestion we have from our side. Thank you.
It has to be a balanced approach, as you said, two-track approach. We will have to make the farmers more productive, more competitive. The cost of production today in the Philippines is 12 pesos per kilo of palay, while Thailand is 8 pesos, Vietnam is 6 pesos. So the impact or the outcome of the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Program out of the rice tariffication law will be a more competitive Filipino rice farmer. At the same time, yes, any gap, this has to be coming from the outside through imports. But not only those imports are coming in, there are more also of smuggled goods or smuggled rice. So we will strengthen the giving of sanitary and phytosanitary import clearance. We will inspect now the rice from the point of origin, because even there is misdeclaration of rice when they go to the Bureau of Customs. Instead of say they are importing 5% broken, but they declare it as 25% broken. So again, there's so much deception taking place in the industry. Yes, so there is this 10 billion pesos a year for the rice farmers to be competitive. At the same time, the government has just decided to give cash assistance to the rice farmers, particularly the rice farmers tilling 1 hectare and below. We will give them before Christmas their gift, 5,000 pesos each.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Dadar and all the dignitaries. I am Brahmanand Reddy. I am representing Manufacturer Exporter and Rice Exporters Association. Just this is a question about IR64 rice. Hope you can throw some light. That has been a significant boost for us from India for exports, which was given by IRRI to the developed country. Now, of late, we are seeing some challenges in exporting IR64 in terms of the grain length. is one of the issues we are facing from India. I just wanted to share whether how it is being done in Philippines, any rejuvenation for this grain. That is one point raised by our members. So wanted to know.
Well, it's again a matter of choice of the consuming public, which varieties they need to have. IR64 is the better variety developed earlier. And up until today, it's still growing very productively. But there are newer varieties already developed by IRI and your National Research Program on rice that are also as good, if not better, varieties than IR64. In the country, there are newer, like we have RC160, RC222, even the 400 series are out and better high-yielding varieties than IR64.
Thank you.
So, hi, this is Shirley Joy from Breed Charitable Trust from India. So I would like to know, is dairy farming a part of Agriculture Ministry as well? Does it come under Agriculture Ministry?
Yes. You know, we only produce 1% of the dairy we require, which means it's an open market. We import a lot. And there's so much to learn from India in terms of the dairy. You are number one in the world in terms of dairy production, even from backyard farming or backyard dairy production. There have been attempts to really do the same, but it's a very, the development has not been encouraging. But it should not really limit us again to reintroduce dairy farming.
So, if in case if we want to start a dairy farming done here, is that possible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Over here? Over here? Microphone, please. Yes. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Very good afternoon, sir. And this is regarding the rice issue. India is the largest exporter of rice in the world. We produce roughly about 110 million metric tons. And we consume about 7 to 8 million metric tons every month. So on the higher side, let's say we are consuming about 96 million metric tons. We have a surplus of around 14 million metric tons, which is exported to more than 100 countries in the world. But Philippines being one of the largest importers, there is hardly any import in Philippines from India. The issue being the difference in tariff, which we discussed, we'll take it up with the Trade Ministry also. If there is some support given and a level ground given, I think it's good for all farmers. Also, you know.
Well, as I mentioned, the law is new, price tariffication law, which specifies 35% tariff from within the ASEAN member economies and 50% actually from non-ASEAN member economies. Under that existing environment, the only way for you to compete is to have a much more reduced price of price per tonnage.
The margin is not so much honorable. I mean, there's a very competitive field, very labor intensive.
So other than that, there are a number of options to follow. Like it can be one of those that you can continue to present during bilateral discussions with the Philippine government.
Sure.
Another one is through ASEAN. There is an ASEAN +1 mechanism. I just attended the meeting in Brunei where we had the State Minister of Agriculture there representing Government of India. So it has to be properly discussed.
Surely, sir. Thank you.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. Is that
one
okay?
last question,
One
please.
last question.
Good afternoon, sir. I was looking at the coconut plantations that it's huge. So I was looking at the non-traditional products. So we in India, we have developed some products. One of them is the drinking straw from coconut leaves and some dishwashing scrubbers. So what kind of support can we get to introduce these production facilities here in in Philippines?
Yeah, again, it could be considered a pioneering business,
It's
and you can be given income tax holiday. That's the only thing we can give. Meanwhile, income tax holiday for a number of years.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Secretary, thank you
Thank
so much
you
for
again.
joining us
Thank you,
today.
thank you, please.
We truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable William Dar, the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture. Of
Happy
course,
Diwali.
earlier, we also had with us Junibert, or let's just say, Deputy Director Junibert Desagun. All right. Thank you so much, sirs, for joining us. And happy Diwali. We have a little handmade sweet just for you. You can share, of course, handmade sweets and some gifts in commemoration of Diwali. All right, that was a fantastic and stimulating discussion about agriculture and the business opportunities that both India and the Philippines can have, of course. Very interesting questions as well, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we have nourished our minds the past few hours. I'm sure all of you would like to nourish your bodies as well. We would like to take this opportunity. If you have some last minute questions, you can go ahead and approach, hopefully, Secretary Dar and the representatives. Get to know the delegates a little bit. Mr. Desagun? Yes, there. Mr. Desagun can stay here. You have been ordered, sir, by your boss to stay here.
To the members of the audience, we had a very productive speed dating with secretaries this morning. We request you to also speed lunch because Secretary Mon Lopez will be coming soon and he will need to move on to the palace right away for our president, the Indian president who is going to the palace. So lunch is served. Please enjoy your meal and try to assemble back within the next 30 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause for all our delegates and all our special guests, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, to Mr. Dariani and Mr. Singhal.
Good afternoon, everybody. Honorable Ramon Lopez, Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry. Honorable Jose Maria Joey Concepcion, Presidential Advisor on Entrepreneurship, and our very one and only Padma Shri awardee, Mr. Vivek Singhal, Head of Delegation, CEO of GMR Construction, and my co-signatory this afternoon, along with members of the visiting delegation, our dear past presidents of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce, Board of Directors of the Chamber, members of the Chamber, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this most important event. We are deeply honored and grateful for today's event, as this will mark the beginning of a fruitful and long-lasting relationship between our chamber and with FICCI, India. This milestone is significant because it will surely and greatly and finally contribute to serious efforts to increase bilateral trade and people-to-people interaction between the Philippines and India. Many of us here have been chamber members for a long time, and chambers normally work towards increasing business between companies and countries. This is just what we do. While business, which is almost always there for profit, may I humbly today take this opportunity to offer an invitation to everybody listening this afternoon. As members and officers of chambers, many times the linkages we create and maintain become all part of our network. Networks are naturally important as for business people. However, we must remember that what to us may only be a phone call to our network is actually a lifeline that will spell the difference between life or death, survival or doom or whether someone somewhere ate today. We have a responsibility as chamber officers and members because these linkages of ours can be used not only for profit, but to help uplift the lives of so many who need help, not only in our own countries, but globally. I invite each and everyone listening today to join us as we continue to work on many advocacies focused on inclusive growth and poverty alleviation. Just imagine if all chambers globally worked on these directions and more, global poverty will be a thing of the past. Profit without purpose, I dare say, is boring. Profit with compassion is what we owe the next generation of the world. Let us today be the beginning of a great partnership between our chambers, and may this mark the beginning of a global collaboration to make the world a better place for everyone. Salamat, Dhanyavad, Mabuhay, and Namaste.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rex Daryanani. Of course, joining them as a signatory for the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, the CEO and GMR Construction, and head of visiting delegation, we have, of course, Mr. Vivek Singhal. We also would like to hear a few words from our very honorable Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry. Please welcome Secretary Ramon Lopez.
I'll take it from here. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation, President Rex. And always with your hard work, there's nowhere to go but up. And definitely, we see great potential with Philippine-India relationship moving forward. As you may know, India is not in the top 10 trading partner. And I think with the visit of President Duterte in India, and if I remember right, we already had about 2 visits. It actually served as a catalyst for greater interaction between the business chambers, and we're happy to see that today we will be witnessing the cooperation, the signing of cooperation between the 2 chambers from India and from the Philippines. We can only see good potential. There's a lot of potential, especially we've been talking about joint cooperation and encouraging more Indian investments in the pharmaceutical field, auto parts, which is basically a strong point from India. Pharmaceutical industry is, of course, a strong industry from India. Health and wellness, energy, you've been a great part of the Build through GMR's participation with some of the key projects in the airport. And we also are aware that you continue to be part of the infrastructure development program, which is a key program of the President Duterte's administration. So we just want to enhance more of this interaction. We would prefer a much stronger business-to-business interaction, more business matching, and all these efforts that you're doing certainly will take us to the next level. So we just wish you greater success. I mean, our 2 countries working on better trade, and more investments from India, of course, to the Philippines, but we see also Philippine companies entering India. By the way, we are at the last leg of the discussion in RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, where ASEAN will be including 6 other, we call it FTA partners, and India is one of that, and India is a major factor, frankly, as we see in this discussion towards the last round of negotiations. And I say last round because we are seeing, and we are all committed, and we means all the ASEAN trade ministers are seeing conclusion, hopefully to be announced by the leaders, as the ministers would recommend to the leaders the conclusion of the negotiation of the RCEP this November, and this coming November ASEAN leaders meeting, and certainly settling all the remaining issues. RCEP has about 25 chapters. We're through with 20, and we're fine-tuning the last 5 chapters. And India, I said India plays a big role because there are some last-minute requests from India, so to speak. So these are the things that we are now settling in. And we are seeing this in India, and we want India to be really a good part of the RCEP discussions and the agreement itself. So we are all working towards that arrangement so that we can finalize the RCEP. So with that, I leave that information first on RCEP as something of a good news that after 7 years, I think, of negotiation, we were not yet in government, that this discussion has started already. And we want to see it done already this year. And when we say done, the agreement's done, the legal scrubbing and the signing will take place next year. By that time, Vietnam will be the host next year for ASEAN. So again, congratulations and more power to Philippines and India relationship.
Thank you so much, Honorable Secretary Ramon Lopez. Looking good last night, by the way, sir, at the expo, the business expo. Puro smiles. Okay. Right now, though, ladies and gentlemen, we also have with us the President Advisor for Entrepreneurship and the Padme Shri awardee. A big round of applause, please, to Honorable Jose Marie Joey Concepcion. Message. Informal lang po ito.
Good afternoon. As usual, Rex always pulls a surprise. He said this was only a signing event. But I'm glad in President Rex's message on inclusivity. I've been part of the ASEAN Business Advisory Council for almost 3 years now, and the challenge really is with us businessmen here is how do we create greater prosperity for our own countrymen. I mean, the wealth has to be distributed, especially for those who belong to the bottom of the pyramid. And your chamber, with its leadership, Rex, and the board has been very active in really bringing about greater prosperity, especially to those in Lanao and Sulu, a program that we are focused on in helping the military there, the soldiers, bring about livelihood programs, especially in the agricultural sector, which in the end, insurgency, drug problems can only be eradicated when you really have peace, when you have a greater participation of the Filipinos in our entire economy. So the stakeholders have to widen. And of course, the ASEAN Business Advisory Council has worked with the Indian Council as well, with Dado Ramesh, who was with the ASEAN-backed Malaysia. And he's looking in bringing Amen in India. And I'm sure that we will, as we prosper in this legacy project of the Philippines, which we started 2 years ago, the Japan government has funded us, and we have now moved to Malaysia, Indonesia, and eventually Cambodia and Vietnam. And hopefully, if the Joint Council of ASEAN India would push through the programs of implementing it in India, then we would start with our dialogue partners as well. Again, I think the fever of really wanting to help others is there. We see it all over. Secretary Mon Lopez and I have been at this for the last 14 years, so it's not new to us. We've been consistent in trying to help the marginalized Filipino people, especially in the countryside. And I'm glad that the Chamber here has gone beyond and supporting all these programs, especially with the mentors that are in your Chamber. And hopefully, we can bring Amen to India eventually in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Concepcion, Joey Concepcion, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, with that, we'd like to move on now to the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce Philippines Incorporated and the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry.
I would like to request the Honorable Ambassador to please join us for the signing. Yeah, and as well as Attorney Roel, the Undersecretary Attorney Roel Esparba to as well witness with the four gentlemen.
And this is a good opportunity to take out your phones. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this event is actually being broadcast live on Facebook. Just in case you didn't know, you can check out FICCI.Philippines and look for the videos for your beautiful faces and handsome faces. Yeah?
Let's get a photo opportunity with the 6 gentlemen up. Guys, can you make space for the 2 gentlemen behind you as well? Thank you. Okay, everybody, this is a historic moment in time. A round of applause. Okay, let's remove the tables, please. Let's remove. Oh, sorry. Stop. Okay, let's do the token first. Sorry.
Yes, we would like to present, of course, some gifts. Yes. Okay, at this point, we would like to give some tokens to our dignitaries, of course, our VIPs, in commemoration of the MOU signing today. Beautiful, beautiful token right there. We'd like to invite our members of the media to find out the significance of that token. We also have some gifts to our VIPs who came to join us. Some handmade sweets. Yes, the mics are on. Go ahead, please.
So, photo of. Go ahead. Can we please remove the tables now? Thank you. Okay, and, I can collect the. I can collect this now. First, I'd like to call the board members to come up on stage if possible. First, we'll do it in order so that it doesn't get a little too cramped, and we'll have to do it very fast. So, board members first of the chamber, can you please come up on stage, please? Can we get the board up on stage as well as DTI Mon Lopez for one quick picture with the board? So let's. Okay, next, let's get the board out and let's bring in anyone from the delegation that wants to take a picture with them as well. So can we have anybody from the delegation that wants to join the picture? We'll just leave the 2 gentlemen and the delegate, and of course the secretaries. Next, I would like to inform the past presidents to be ready to also take the last photo opportunity. Thank you. And the last, can we have the past presidents of the chamber for the last photo opportunity? Could we welcome all of you on stage, please? Okay, let's get inside this picture, please. Everybody, look here and smile. Look to me, everybody here on my right first. Move it to the now. Move to the center. Thank you, everybody. And now let us go back to the business. I'll pass it back to Crystal.
Thank you so much, Mahesh. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give everyone a very warm round of applause. A brand new memorandum of understanding between the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce, Philippines Incorporated, and Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We will still have our DTI secretary with us, of course, for the next part of our program. While we settle down once more, we would like to remind you, just in case you've forgotten, that FICCI has definitely been held in high esteem for its active involvement in Philippine private and public sectors. Of course, the Chamber is part of an alliance of different business groups and is committed to help the Philippine government and other business organizations achieve inclusive growth. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very influential gentleman here with us, open and willing to answer any questions that would encourage trade relationships and commerce relationships between India and the Philippines. And with that, this already officially opens the next part of our program, the trade consultation, of course, with the Secretary, once again, of the Department of Trade and Industry, Philippines, the Government of the Philippines, Honorable Mr. Ramon Lopez. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Rex, take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the Chamber, please allow me to welcome and thank our champion, our superhero. We refer to him, if you know Superman, we have Supermon as our Secretary of Trade. And he has been an amazing partner, an amazing secretary. If you look him up on every social media platform, you will see what kind of a hardworking Secretary of Trade we have. And I dare say we have now with us the incumbent and one of the most hardworking secretaries that we've ever seen. So to get the session going, I'm sure many of you from the Indian delegation would have some questions to the Secretary of Trade. We'll go ahead. He has 10 minutes to stay with us because he has to go to the palace. But please, if there's any questions, we'll go to the Q&A straight away. Is there anybody from the delegation that would have any questions?
Okay, here we go.
Microphone, please. Thank you.
Morning.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Good
I'm
afternoon.
here from the rice exporting community from India.
Rice?
Exporting community.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. We used to export a lot of rice to Philippines for the last one. After the rice tariffication law, the duty difference between Indian rice and ASEAN rice is 15%, by which we have lost our opportunity to export to Philippines. Under RCEP, do you think the duty will be similar for Indian rice and Thai rice coming into Thailand, Philippines?
You're asking about the unification of the tariff rates, for example?
Yeah. That's
so
after RCEP comes into picture.
The 35 was really 35 is considered really a good tariff for now, that coming from ASEAN. But your concern is you're coming from Asia,
India.
Outside ASEAN, and the tariff rate is what?
50, sir.
50.
Yeah, we are out of market as far as because Philippines is a $500 million
Yes,
market.
but usually, you know, rice, corn, sugar, they are in the sensitive list, and that's the reason why there's usually a higher, relatively higher tariff for those products, sensitive products, because we have, you know, farmers to take care of, to protect. What we already did is actually an opening up of the market with the rice tarification law, no longer requiring an import permit. So it's already, I would say, a step forward.
Yes.
Unfortunately, of course, we just have to contend for now with these different rates that were, you know, like certain concessions given to, like within ASEAN.
Yeah.
That's why they have the 35%, and outside ASEAN, which would have a higher tariff rate. Now, so the question now is, are these products in RCEP? I'm not aware that they might be included in RCEP. It's possible that they could still be excluded. In other words, not putting in RCEP means that we can, the tariff rates will be the same, and perhaps having the same tariff rates.
But,
in other words, at 50 for non ASEAN. It can still be a subject for negotiation in the future. These things can also change. But opening it up to ASEAN, the major source of rice for now would be Vietnam and Thailand.
Yeah. But India being the world's largest exporter, we have lost the world's second largest market, sir.
Yeah. But from what I remember on the data, India was not the major source of rice in the Philippines. But I will not stop you from requesting also, continue to request a better tariff rate for rice coming from India.
Thank you for the question. Do we have any from the floor? Yes, sir. Let me give the mic to you.
Good afternoon, Secretary Mon. My question relates to the Indian IT and BPO companies who have been investing heavily in the Philippines over the last 20 years. We started 3 years back with Train 1, Train 2, then was Trabajo, now it's Citra. When can we get clarity on this? Because, you know, the investment decision that we need to make, the scale that we need to achieve, whether do we need to invest in skills, do we invest into R&D, it will all be based on once we get a final clarity on Citra. Because one time we hear PESA was opposing Citra, and then suddenly we know PESA does a turnaround. So I think all we are looking at as an investor, more clarity on Citra.
Okay. Actually, the one thing clear is that there will be these reforms and rationalization, and that as you're aware already on the features of Citira, one thing clear also is that there is the policy, of course, that will be reflected in the proposed bill that is expected to become a law in the near future, that there will be a reduction in the CIT from 30 to 20. So that's clear. That if you are planning, you have to plan on that basis already. So that is very clear. Now, on the discussions on the other features of Citira are ongoing. It's subject to further Senate investigation or Senate hearings, hearing all sides or stakeholders. But again, one thing clear there is that the incentives will have to be time-bound, performance-based. There are these parameters that have been adopted unanimously, even in the PESA board. That's the reason why you heard some clarity as to the position of PESA, because you've been hearing different positions before, especially coming from one member of PESA. But now the PESA board is very clear that it supports Citira and the features there, and there are just refinements going on in terms of discussion, negotiation, in terms of the transition period for the existing locators in PESA. That being said, put that aside, that is where there's some hanging issue. But if you look at new projects, it's very clear also that there will be more incentives. Incentives such as giving preference to industries you mentioned about R&D, high-tech industries, they can, in the proposal that we are now discussing in Senate, what we presented to Senate is that additional years of ITH, income tax holiday, can be given to activities that are really high technology, if they are located outside regions 3 and 4 and Metro Manila, in other words, the larger metropolis, then you can also get another extra 2 years. So there are these, I guess, more generous benefits that will be given. So that's the direction. Again, there's clarity there. And there are also additional, so after the income tax holiday, you graduate into a reduced CIT or a more deductibility in your FS so that you'll come up with a lower tax due in the end. That will, of course, result in a lower CIT effect. No? So you're now talking of additional deductibility, and this is the way to change the behavior, that the incentives will be based in terms of if you hire more domestic labor, there's additional deduction. If you invest in R&D and training, there's 100% more deduction. On direct labor, that's additional 50% on top of the 100% that are usually deducted anyway as part of expense. There are additional deduction on infrastructure, on domestic content, local content, and that will favor, of course, the local economy if you try to source your raw materials from the local, suppliers. So there are these behavior encouraging features that are already in CITIRA, and that can also be expected. So these are, if you look at the bill, which is getting more and more support from many stakeholders, especially even those in the locators, they basically understand that this making it time-bound is necessary, but adding certain flexibility on the transition is what they're hoping to get, so that there will be no drastic decisions that they will make moving forward, and that there will be minimal or no impact on employment, which is what we are trying to protect as well.
Any timelines for implementation?
Once we settle everything, hopefully, I would like to say before December, but given the number of hearings left, it might slide into the first quarter next year. But if there's a possibility also that it can still be finished before the December break.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else from the audience? Okay, sir. So this is more a request, really, from us. Since we consider you as the father of all types of trade, may we seek the assistance of DTI to champion the concerns of Indian pharmaceutical companies with respect to their Philippine partners to speed up the tedious registration processes in FDA. The registration process, Mr. Secretary, can last between 2 to 3 years for a single type of drug. The President has already given direction that he wants medicine prices to come down.
Yes.
We are actively working with ARTA on this matter, and you know that DG Belgica actually came up with an order recently, and that's done. That's been a breath of fresh air.
Yep.
But if DTI could please help us in hammering this to speed this up at the soonest possible time, sir, we'll really appreciate it.
Yes, you have our support. In fact, we started this with ARTA and doing all these discussions and with the FDA, for instance, and as you know, the head of the advisory council of ARTA is DTI, no, and that this rule to have automatic approval for the renewal of applications in FDA are all part of the earlier discussions and thankfully also now implemented by ARTA.
Congratulations,
pressure is being given and will continue. As the President said, we'd like to see all these things like in ARTA, we just have to follow the law of the 3 days, 7 days, and 20 days for simple, complex, and high-tech, highly technical applications. So there will be no choice, but we are just basically discussing with FDA how they can adjust. They will have to be fast. And in fact, even in business registration, as you know, you have that plan and vision to make this, in less than 1 hour or 30 minutes, you will get your business registered, coming down from 13 days or more. So these are all, they are being planned on now.
Actually, congratulations. ARTA has really delivered so far. We actually gave them some test cases, and in less than 2 weeks, those applications were approved. So they're really working very hard. Congratulations. And finally, sir, before we let you go, we know you need to get to the palace. Another area that we really feel there is huge potential between India and the Philippines is tourism. And while I know that we have a Secretary of Tourism, but as part of the delegation, we have nobody from the tourism industry that has come. Last night during dinner with FICCI representatives, we discussed the huge potential of Indian tourists to come to the Philippines. And since we are now focused on our non-traditional markets, India, I dare say, can play a big role and actually overtake our friends in ASEAN and China even from a tourism point of view. So we'd like to seek your help, sir, please, if we can push this to the Department of Tourism, if this can be made a priority focus on a marketing perspective to bring Indian tourists to the Philippines. And of course, for the Indian side, to introduce India to Filipino travelers. And we're just soliciting your support, sir, to make this a reality at the soonest possible time.
I just dare say also, of course, we know the population of India is like China, and definitely a big potential in, if we attract the tourists from India. And at the same time, that will obviously help in our campaign in tourism. Tourism really is one key sector that really has huge potential. Really, there would be a capacity, I guess, we will be under capacity by the time because, assuming even China tourists coming in, now more than double from where we started in 2015. And India, assuming it doubles up also, those numbers will be huge, and we will lack hotels, resorts, and we need to develop more. And that's where we invite also Indian investors to invest in health and wellness, in tourism, resorts. Definitely, this is one sector where we see very, very strong potential.
Thank you, sir. Anything from my
just want
co-chairman?
to add, Secretary, that the number of direct flights between India and Philippines. This also we need to put up a request that how it can be enhanced and how it can be started, and as well the ease of the visa. These are the two issues which can enhance the tourism part.
Yes, you will have our support. These things are also, I think, discussed in the JCETC, what we usually have, yung Joint Commission on Economic and Trade Cooperation. Things so that it can include the transportation, P2P, people to people, and all these issues on direct flights or adding flights. Of course, that has some commercial consideration and feasibility to look into. But if the numbers are there, definitely there'll be more direct flights to India and Philippines. And the visa is, of course, we'll just support you there because it's not under our department, but we'll give our support.
For the information of the delegates and my co-chairman, we have with us now one of the best ambassadors to India, Don Bhagat Singh, who's just with us, and he has played a fantastic role in improving the speed at which visas are issued. We are constantly working with him, and we see this improving in the not too distant future. So, if there's no more questions, Mr. Secretary, once again, Supermon, thank you very, very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our Supermon, Secretary Lopez. There you go. And we do have another token just for you for accommodating us, and of course in celebration of Diwali. Yes, it is a handmade sweet Matai just for you. You can share that with. You can have it all by yourself because it's really something well worth munching on. Thank you so much. Okay. think we're all set for the next and final part of today's, well, trade consultation. All right? I'm sure our friends outside will catch up, and we'd like to invite you to please make your way back into the ballroom. You might just miss out on something that might be very, very, very interesting, and you'll only hear it secondhand. And better to hear it, of course, from the horse's mouth, so they say. Right about now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you all know that the world has embarked head-on into the IT or the digital era. IT and communications technologies are finding smarter ways to enhance infrastructure while testing the limits of what most people considered even possible. Some of the technological trends point towards, one of my personal favorites, artificial intelligence, NLP, blockhead, Internet of Things or IoT, edge computing, prescriptive analysis, 5G, we have facial recognition, automation, and voice, to name a few. To enlighten us, ladies and gentlemen, with the emerging information and communications technology outlooks, please welcome the Undersecretary of Department of Information and Communications Technology, Yusek Dennis Villorente. Accompanying him, of course, is the Director 3, ICT Industry Development Bureau, Director Rior Santos. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, you can do better than that. Round of applause. There you go. Rex, take it away, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, we're here to our last meeting. We'd like to welcome Yusek Dennis and Rior. Thank you for being with us today. We truly, truly appreciate your being here. I would like to turn over to my co-chair for the opening statement.
Good afternoon, Honorable Dennis, Undersecretary, Mr. Rex, and the delegates, friends from media. This is the last roundtable of the summit for a very important and interesting sector of information and technology. The Indian ICT sector grew US $181 billion in 2018-19. Revenue from the digital segment is expected to comprise 38% of the forecast, and it will be an industry about $350 billion by 2025. India is also the second largest telecommunication market and has the second highest number of internet users in the world. IT industries in Philippines has been fastest growing industry in the last 10 years. The Philippines is the second only to the India as a global outsourcing destination, specifically in the areas of the healthcare, software, thereby attracting global multinational ICT firms. However, lack of the internet bandwidth is an area of opportunity for development and investment. The scope of partnership, ICT being an essential tool for socio-economic development, and it is very important that both the nations should enhance bilateral commercial agreements between the two countries in the sectors like IT, ITES, and telecommunications. The Indian government has launched several initiatives like Make in India, Digital India, and Smart City programs which Philippine industry can participate. Similarly, the Philippine government has also launched several benefits for the Indian technology firm to set up their operation in Philippines. And the companies like, they have already set up BPO operations like Wipro, TCS, Tech Mahindra, ILFS Genpact, Hindujaz, and many more. And I can say that as a GMR, we are also getting participated in the Clark Smart City project. So there are a lot of initiatives and scope. To enhance the scope of partnership further, FICCI has organized some conferences and artificial intelligence digital transformation conclave in February 2020 in Mumbai. And I welcome wholeheartedly participation by all in such conferences to exchange ideas, network, and promote business. And today our delegation is very well represented by Tech Mahindra, by Wipro, and some other colleagues. So I again welcome each of you to this landmark summit, and without further ado, with request to commence the discussions, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. We'd also like to acknowledge the presence of our good friend, Bettina Kimson, who is the chairperson of the Committee on ICT of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce. This lady is an expert when it comes to this, and we're very fortunate. Bettina, thank you so much for joining us. Truly appreciate it. Okay, so let's get this moving. May I turn over to Yusek Dennis? We would request you to just update us on what is happening at the ICT and the direction moving forward, sir.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Rex. And first of all, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for the invitation to be here. We're very pleased to be invited and provide you some updates, and feel free to ask questions from us, of course. So we have Secretary Hunasan, who's leading the Department of Information and Communications Technology. The department itself is a relatively new department. We're, I think, a little more than 3 years old. But the department itself came from the aggregation of 3 agencies. One involved with telecom infrastructure, another one on ICT policy, and third one on e-government. So in terms of the priorities of the department and the secretary, from the directive of the president, we are focusing on improving broadband connectivity nationwide, and especially making sure that currently underserved and unserved areas in the country are connected. Of course, this is in support of the Digital Philippines program that the Secretary has also launched, which is covering all aspects of utilizing ICT in support of creating a digital society for the Philippines, including digital education, digital health, entrepreneurship in support of business creation and job generation. What else? For the Digital Philippines, the digital society. Now, you might also know that the Philippines is embarking on its national ID project called the Philippine ID System. And you will be pleased to note that the legislation itself and our current work plan is really benefiting from the lead that India has in this, in its Aadhaar system. So we've looked at the Aadhaar system and we've patterned our legislation and our direction for the Philippine National ID based on Aadhaar as a fundamental identification system. We've also taken note of Digital India, so national ID for identification, digital payments, and of course connectivity. So we're partnering very closely with our Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to make sure that digital payments is well supported. Our digital, our e-commerce is really going up, and with this, of course, logistics and so on. So we want to make sure that the supporting infrastructure for connectivity, for providing trust, and supporting digital payments is there. So that's essentially the quick update from the department. And
thank you,
Rex,
sir.
Back to you.
Thank you. We have a lot of IT people among the delegates, so I would, if you don't mind, sir, so we give it to the IT experts in the room today. If you have any questions, the floor is yours. A microphone, please.
Right here.
Right there.
So good afternoon, Secretary. So IT is one part, communication is other, and I think I'll just focus my question on the communication. The net connectivity, the mobile connectivity, I don't know whether it directly pertains to you. There's few challenges around it, and especially when we have, from day-to-day communication to clients visiting the location, data is basic things. Why is data so expensive, and why there's so much of challenges in connectivity in Philippines?
Basically because we have essentially a duopoly. So with the DICT, so essentially we have 2 national mobile providers. we've recently awarded the license for the frequencies for a third mobile operator. So Dito is coming up. That's the third operator, and through that process, we've actually gotten their commitment to abide by certain performance commitments. So for example, within 1 year from the award of the license, they committed to cover how many? A certain percent of the population, and also in terms of the speed of access, and so on until the 5th year. And if they're unable to meet these performance obligations, then we can draw on their performance bond. So there's a lot of pressure on them to really set it up properly and operate it properly. You have your, is it Reliance, right? I guess India, Philippines, not so different in this regard, right? You have the advantage of moving ahead, but we've been looking at what you've been doing, and we get lessons from that. So we have a third operator that's coming up. At the same time, government has this particular administration has decided to invest on broadband infrastructure, which has not been done by any administration previous to it. So there are areas in the Philippines that will not really be profitable for private telecom operators to go in and operate. Government will need to go in and develop the market. Our intention is not to go in and compete with the private sector, but rather develop the market for them, and show them that it's an interesting marketplace as well for them to get into. But of course, the bottom line there is government has an obligation to provide connectivity services to its citizens. And if the private sector is not doing it, then government has to go in.
Sure, because I think you spoke about just digital platforms, and they can't work in isolation. And that's why data has to be there, because when you compare with India, India today has the cheapest data in the world. That makes a huge difference, because you can, in the recent years. And that's what is kind of driving the digital platforms. And that's as you said, is a key enabler. One more question, Secretary. Are we have specific plans on skills? Because talent is another issue. Talent, skill development. What are the ICT views on skill development? Sure.
Good afternoon. I'm Director Santos for the ICT Industry Development. In fact, now we are harmonizing and developing a plan in terms of developing the skills of tomorrow. Basically, we are strengthening, because the mandate of the ICT is to actually provide ICT and digital trainings. And we are upscaling that and expanding our training capability and providing the necessary skills that the industry needs. So in our plan, we are building 107 training centers all over the Philippines. That's on the infrastructure side, and we are also transforming several areas of our operations as a training hubs. But one of the main component is also to connect it with the online training platform that we are providing. So in a nutshell, we are developing a system that will connect all the formal and non-formal educational training provider, both from SHED, TESDA, into one platform. Similar with the Central Business Portal, where we streamline the business processes. We're also streamlining different skills development training program that will be provided for the Filipinos. And apart from that particular platform, the aim is to really introduce upskilling and reskilling strategies that the formal and non-formal education system are not addressing, such as medical coding, AI, blockchain, etc. These are key trainings that we will be introducing that will be initiated by the ICT, which will be launched in the last quarter of 2020. But while we're building the infrastructure, we're also building the platform to facilitate both blended learning mechanisms, both online and offline, to ensure that the skills required of the industries are there while we are updating the curriculum and helping CHED and DepEd address these curriculum issues. Yeah, and we continue doing consultations in different industries in specific skills that is actually in line with the requirements of the industries.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Sir Rio. Any other questions? Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm from healthcare industry, so I would like to know about Philippines healthcare. Are you totally digital healthcare? Everything is on computer, your EMR and everything, or you are still like us who are transforming?
There is, in fact, an e-health bill that is currently being deliberated on in Congress, so that this all of the programs under e-health, both from the Department of Health, from our Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, and all of the health providers in the country can all be consolidated. So that's one thing that is ongoing right now, is to institutionalize the e-health program through legislation. But on your specific question on what is the current status of e-health in the Philippines, so there is very close collaboration between our Department of Health and the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation to be able to harness the health data. So kind of using the health insurance incentive to be able to harness health data for policy and decision making and operational use. We have been working on creating what we call health PHIE, Philippine Health Information Exchange, so that the patient or the citizen's health records, regardless of the health provider, can be shared or can be accessed by a health professional who is servicing that particular citizen or patient. No? We are not there yet. So each health facility currently may have its own system, but may be limited only to that specific facility. They communicate and send information or data to the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation because they have to, so that they can claim benefits, right? And through that, and the sharing agreement between the PhilHealth and the DOH is able to access that data for very specific purposes, not really for all things that you can do with that data. So that's the current status. I would wish that we could have Philippine Health Information Exchange that's really operational, that's accessible for health professionals and beneficial for our patients, because then it would be easier for me, for example, as a patient, to be able to get access to my health record in any health facility I have been serviced in, right? Because right now, if I change a health provider, they wouldn't have access to my records with a different health care provider. So they would have to get all of this history from me, which is an inconvenience, right? So that's the status.
Thank you so much.
Just to add on to it, from from service provider side, service delivery, the DICT is exploring how we can assist Department of Health in providing facilities for DOH and related hospitals on providing a platform where people who don't have access to hospitals and public facilities can access basic services. The telehealth mechanism and you know, because for example, in the Philippines, we are archipelagic in nature. So there are some areas where doctors cannot actually access where doctors cannot go or patients cannot access the hospitals. So we are trying to explore mechanisms how we can assist that particular component, because the role of the ICT is really to assist the government and other partner agencies to provide the IT platform or the ICT requirements to speed up service delivery of these specific agencies. So one of the major component that was identified is really access to medical consultations and services. So which already being done by Philippine General Hospital and the UP Medicine. We just need to contribute more, where we call it doctors in the barrio, but instead of the doctors going to the remote places, maybe we can install a facility, an online facility where they can have an online consultations of the patient. There is already ongoing discussions on this, but we will continue working with the Department of Health to explore a more workable mechanism how we can actually intervene. Because at the end of the day, the Department of Health is the main government agency responsible for public health. So our role is just to assist whatever requirement needed, apart from the data and other issues on e-health. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there? Yes.
I have one question.
Yeah.
You said that regarding the smart city programs, like in India, they have launched the smart city program a couple of years back, and it has been proven very, very successful because they have broken the smart city into different modules, and the modules are very successful. So whether the government is looking anything similar in that line in the Philippines also?
Yeah, we have participated in smart city initiatives. This is mostly led by our local governments. So the department is trying to provide a framework that can be used as a guide for our local government units to use so that they can embark on this. That would not really be, sometimes these programs kind of become vendor driven if there are no guidance or standards. So depending on the program, some local governments have focused their initiatives on using this to address, for example, local concerns. So for example, peace and order. So they've invested on infrastructure, initially targeting peace and order issues in their locality, so providing connectivity for their CCTV. But then upgrading this to be able to use the same infrastructure to provide government services to its citizens. In other cases, the initiative would be driven by other concerns, like, for example, traffic, especially here in Metro Manila, and using technology to address this, using intelligent transport system, for example, deploying sensors and so on, to be able to understand what's happening and to be able to provide information for its citizens. So a lot of these are, I would say, initial, prototype or pilot scale. And I think our direction would be to create really, I would call a cookbook, if you will, or guidance that can be used by our local government units. And so that this can also become a model of how LGUs, our local government units, can collaborate with national government agencies in that regard.
Thank you. Any other?
Yes, we
Please.
do have a question.
Hi, good afternoon, Secretary. I'm Abby Manubay from HCL Technologies. So my question is, we have a lot of data transferring from one person to another. So how are we prioritizing data privacy and cyber crimes now?
Yeah, the Philippines is, I think, one of the, I guess, not just the first, but still one of the few countries, especially in this part of the world, that has its Data Privacy Act, so legislation on data privacy, as well as cybercrime. We've had that since 2012, but the bodies that are responsible for its enforcement and regulation, I think were only created in 2016. So still relatively new. But I would say that we have a very clear policy and guide to support data privacy. Well, this is in regard to personal data, right? And then also on the what are specific cyber crimes and the penalties for doing bad things. So we have that, right? And we have the bodies that enforce and regulate, and I think that's an advantage for us, right?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Austin from Tech Mahindra. So I thought I'll probably give you a last question to know about the future. I mean, Philippines is the 10th fastest growing economy in the world in 2018 by a study. I mean, what about your plans about global investments to really bring about the change that you just spoke about? Any future plans of global investments in infrastructure, technology, of collaborating with different firms?
Yeah, so just reiterating the point that I made on what the DICT's priorities are, at least for this administration, and they are on one, broadband infrastructure, and this is guided by the National Broadband Plan, which we are currently implementing, and number two, the Digital Philippines program, which will utilize that infrastructure to be able to realize digital society for the Philippines and support, our increasing transition to a digital economy, digital society, supporting e-education, e-health, and community. So we're very open to collaboration with global partners on how we can improve the broadband infrastructure here. It's not just within the Philippines, but of course also ensuring that our connectivity to the outside is enhanced and continues to grow. With the fourth industrial revolution, more and more data will be running over these networks, and we will see exponential demands for connectivity and exponential growth in traffic. And so continuous investment on this infrastructure will be required. So for example, within the Philippines, we lack cellular towers. Yes. And we will need a lot of investment to catch up with our neighbors in terms of that kind of an infrastructure. So we have an initiative to attract tower providers, not specifically telcos, but infrastructure, builders of towers that can be used by our telecom companies. We want data center operators, cloud providers to put up shop here. We're interested to understand, what would make the Philippines attractive for them, not just to cater to the Philippine market, but to the regional market. Yeah, make sure that while we improve the connectivity, we also have the fuel or the data for it, right? That will make it relevant.
Okay, thank you. Bettina, please.
Yeah, if I could, just to help facilitate a bit here, when we discuss ICT, there's the technology side, there is the infrastructure side, and there is the, I'll say, software side. Technology is broken into software and hardware. Now, to facilitate not just discussions, but potential matching later on, because I also hailed from the Philippine Software Industry Association, and when I reached out to them, they mentioned that they're interested in software solutions, some of which may be brought into the country and represented as a partnership with local companies. On the other hand, we're also looking for technologies relative to health, as an example. And when we talk about technologies, it really has to do with the hardware. Like when you talk about telehealth, you have a box, and you actually have the BP, the MRI, everything built into the box. Now, that is something also of interest to the Philippines. So I just wanted to jump in and say, maybe your delegates can try and figure out which box they belong to, go to Rex, and maybe I can work with Rex to help facilitate something relative to that for the business matching. Aside from all the towers and everything that was discussed, that's also a much needed thing. Since I'm hailing from private sector as well, that's a better way of doing things as well, to drive your connections to move forward in the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
very
much.
much, Bettina.
Maybe just to inform you of a very concrete collaboration we have with India for our national ID. We actually have a formal collaboration with IIT Bangalore and MOSIP Foundation, which is a group headed by Infosys, I think, Chairman Anand Nanda. So we are adopting the MOSIP software as the foundation for our national ID. And the agency here in the Philippines that's responsible for the implementation of our national IDs currently, or will be, looking for a systems integrator to help them use MOSIP and adopt it for implementation in our national ID. Of course, once we have the national ID and the numbers that are issued, we will, a lot of the, what do you call that, parties, relying parties for the authentication service, we'll need to, look for a partner to be able to integrate that authentication service into their existing services, right? So it could be an advantage for Indian companies who have a lot of experience because of Aadhaar to look at that opportunity.
Any more before I ask the last question?
Yes, we have a question
over
here
there,
at the back.
please. Yes, go ahead.
Excuse me, sir. All right, a gentleman at the back. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My question is related to the interbank fund movement. Presently, the online remittances from, let's say, X bank to Y bank is possible through check movements only. What is the roadmap for that, so that, like India, NEFT and RTGS, IMPS, lot many channels are there, where we are catering the remittances from one bank to another bank within a flick of seconds and through the clearing sessions. So kindly elaborate.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So this is more in the responsibility of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or our central bank. But let me provide some information on that, as far as I know. So 2 years ago, our Bangko Sentral came out with the National Retail Payment System Framework. And that framework has resulted in the creation of two operational systems right now. Not Pay Maya. One system is batch mode based, but the other is real time. Although it's limited to transactions less than 50,000 pesos. So those are operational systems now, and it's really private sector driven, but guided by the National Retail Payment System Framework that the Bangko Sentral came out with. And that is driving more digital payments within the system. I think the BSP targets that electronic payments will, currently it's like 2 years ago, I think it's less than 1%. I think they're targeting at least 20% in the immediate future, and we're hoping that that becomes more than 50% in the next few years as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. If I may, one of the things that I have always been curious about is if we could please request you to work with the BIR. When government encourages the private sector to pay its correct taxes, etc., the only way to do that is really computerize your accounting systems and use IT to get things going. However, when you try to register computerized accounting systems with the BIR, even if, say, you're using a particular version, say, of SAP or NetSuite or whatever, every single company that uses these software is required to go through an accreditation process. So the accreditation is by company. And we were hoping that if maybe DICT could speak to the BIR, that if a certain software has been accredited, its accreditation should be by software rather than by company. Because what is happening now, in order to register computerized accounting systems, it takes years. Because there are only 3 groups in the BIR that can actually make this happen. So I've mentioned this to Secretary Dominguez of DOF, because it is really a choke point for companies that want to go, especially SMEs that comprise 99.6% of Philippine business that want to now go into CAS systems. They're having a very hard time in the accreditation. So I don't know whether you've encountered this problem, but if you do work with the BIR, we'd really appreciate if you could take this up with them as well.
We'll check with them on that. That info is actually a surprise for me because we work with the BIR, and our understanding from what they've explained to us is that the computerized accounting systems are accredited, and they have a list of these systems that are accredited. And if any company wants to use that, according to them, what needs to happen is they just inform BIR that, unless of course there's some customization internal to the company, in which case then it's a different system. So we'll check.
So I've experienced it personally, and I worked with them when I rolled out SAP Business by Design, which is a cloud-based solution, an ERP solution. Even if there is customization on, say, supply chain or procurement, etc., but as long as the basic accounting software is the same debits and credits as done in generally accepted accounting procedures, it's still that same thing. And sadly, the accreditation is by company, and that's really slowing things down. So if you could take that up with them and maybe review how they accredit the software.
We'll give them the feedback. And
yes.
I guess they'll get that.
Sure. And finally, the final question is, another experience that we've had is when we work with Filipino IT professionals, whether they be developers or functional consultants, we've noticed that there is a weakness in the ability to map business processes as compared to counterparts in India. We've again personally experienced that when we speak to Indian IT professionals, they immediately are able to understand the business processes and therefore convert this to code and execute the software way quicker. So do you think that there is something lacking on the education side when it comes to to business process mapping that that perhaps the academe could be flagged and they could put more focus on this particular subject?
Well, I'm not sure what the difference in terms of background between an Indian
could it be the
IT
what
worker
the education on the education side? Because what we've noticed difficulty on the mapping of the business process. They're very good in coding, in actual writing the code, but in understanding from a client perspective, in understanding the business process and converting that to code is where the mismatch seems to be.
I've heard stories that there are also differences between like somebody who studied in one university in the Philippines versus another who studied in this university in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So, so really, it could be the curriculum, right, of that, and what goes into their coursework.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? We're done. Thank you very much, sirs. We really appreciate your joining us today. Much appreciated.
And oh yes, please.
It was useful information, yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Tokens, please.
Yes, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, as a token of thanks, we would like to present with you, to you rather, these. All right, these tokens. Yes, these tokens of thanks. Yes. Oh, there's another one right here, I believe. Yes, in celebration of a very special event. And that, ladies and gentlemen, of course, concludes today's consultation, Phil India Trade Consultations. We would like to thank, of course, our Undersecretary of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, USEC Dennis Villorente, and the Director 3, ICT Industry Development Bureau, Director Rior Santos, for enlightening us. And actually, amongst all the talks that we had, they were able to answer the most, right? Did you notice? Thank you so much. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Representatives from the delegates to join us as a photo op.
All the IT representatives, please feel free to come on forward as we take the opportunity once again to thank, of course, our Honorable Fortunato Boy Tanseco de la Peña from the Department of Science and Technology, USEC Dr. Rolando Enrique Domingo, DPBO, from the Department of Health, from the Department of Agriculture, of course, our Honorable William Dar, from the DTI, Honorable Ramon Lopez, and the Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Honorable Joey Concepcion. Madame Bettina, thank you so much also for joining us. And we also would like to thank, of course, our Honorable Ambassador to India from the Philippines, Ramon Dondon Bagatsing, for gracing our event. That concludes the Phil India Trade Consultations. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a memorandum we had a signing earlier also. We definitely are well on the way to strengthening our future together. My name is Luis Crystal. You guys have a wonderful day.